You are about to opt in to Monerotopia, a show for the Monero community where all are welcome to join. From noob to maxi, no matter what bags you hold. Just sit back and relax to the sweet sounds of Monero's latest progress. Or if you're feeling inspired, join us on stage. Remember, the only thing that can stop Monero is a false belief that it can be stopped. And if you want to win the revolution faster, we recommend you remove your XMR from all custodial exchanges immediately. Warning, voting accidents are common around here. Don't forget to properly secure your private keys. Monerotopia starts now.
Alrighty. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning,
Aloha.
GM.
Not too bad. 8 minutes late. All right. Guys, it's my fault. Nobody else's. I'll get better. I'll get better.
Dude, it's nothing. Everyone was waiting for that crypto summit, which is basically like, it was like a cheeseburger, but without the burger, right? It's like you've got the bread and you have no patty. That's literally what it was. And it took them like,
well, the news had already dropped.
Start.
Yeah. The news that dropped before it was highly significant. I mean, we could get into it, but like, I don't think any of us ever thought we'd see the day anytime soon where the U.S. government would be announcing that they're starting truly taking steps towards creating a Bitcoin reserve, where they're stating it's, they hope it to be the Fort Knox of the digital realm, and then additionally creating a strategic crypto reserve, which will include, from what they say, any other coins that they confiscate along the way. So I thought the news itself was huge. It's just they had already dropped it. But I'm sure we'll be talking all about it.
Well, there's some people saying, I think they were just trolling that. They're saying Trump would say that we're going to reduce capital gains tax or something, announce that.
Yeah,
of course, none of that happened. But that
one step at a time, right? That's the first announcement's already monumental. You don't want to use up all your political capital in 2 weeks, right? He's got to save some. And who knows? I mean, if they're gonna even do that, that would be crazy. I don't know. I don't know. Do you guys think that's even possible that he might eliminate capital gains?
What people are saying specifically was that it would be for U.S. coins, whatever that means.
Yeah, what the fuck is that? I've heard that a couple times talking about different. That makes no sense.
So if Bitcoin's primarily mined in the United States, maybe that's what it means. Yeah, the U.S. has to have a majority hash rate, and if it's proof of work.
Very fungible.
That's just a guess.
Wow. That's what they're using, but I think even creator, almost like a Zcash might be considered more American, right? Because they could see who
it's a corporation that
who's involved in the founding of it. Although there's a bunch of Israelis involved, but I guess that makes it even more American. It's as American as you can get. We got HBS. Aloha. HBS, feel free to jump up if you want to be our special guest today. Nice to hear from you. I got your message, by the way. HBS helps run MoneroCon. We've had him on stage here, I'm pretty sure, at some point. Awesome dude. Also very knowledgeable in the Monero space. HBS, please jump up if you'd like to give us some updates on MoneroCon. We can talk about the collaboration with Monerotopia. More than welcome to do that. We don't have a special guest today, guys. Sorry, dropping the ball again. It's hard because we've got the Monero talk where I have to keep that going with guests, and then we have this as well. So to help me, if you want to see guests, reach out to me if you guys want to be a guest. I know there's tons of people at this point working on different things in Monero land, and if you want to come and talk about it out in the public, in the Monero public square, please feel free to do so. Best way is to, DM me on X to get the conversation started, or you can hit Tux up, or you can email me, monerotopia@protonmail.com. What else? Any housekeeping things to bring up at this point? Obviously, big event coming up. Next thing is Monerotopia ParkFest and MoneroCon, which are both happening at the same time in June. What is the date of the MoneroCon? That's June. I don't know, June. Should know this at this point. Let me look it up actually, because I'll bring up the PorcFest page. What am I doing here? PorcFest.
It's
June
20th to 22nd.
Okay, yeah, and PorcFest itself is June 16th through 22nd. So it's the whole week, and then it's the end of the week. That weekend is when MoneroCon kicks off, and that's really when the events at PorcFest will be kicking off as well. I mean, I don't. Aaron Day is going to be helping me run this whole thing in a very big way. He's the one that got us the tent, figured out how to get us the tent, because he's rented the large tent there in the past for other associations. But yeah, now this year it's going to be the Monerotopia tent at PorcFest. So super exciting. You could actually see it's basically going to be this. If you could see in these pictures, it's going to be that tent there on the right, that white tent. Not the same exact thing or place, but pretty much that's where it will be. And then that barn in the back, that's the main stage for PorcFest itself. So PorcFest has its own main stage, and then there's a couple of these big tents that you see here that are in the, I don't even know what they call this, like general area. That's where they have the big bonfire that everybody goes to. And this is just one section of PorcFest, and then it goes out. It's pretty vast, and it's just like rows and rows of campsites where everybody's hanging out. That's where you have the Agora, where everybody's out there selling all their goods and services for crypto. Almost all of them are accepting Monero at this point, accepting Monero and gold. Like the most accepted things at PorcFest are, I'll try to put it in order. I would say goldbacks. Everybody loves a goldback at PorcFest. Nobody's turning down a goldback. And then, yeah, in terms of cryptos, Monero, right up there. Monero, Bitcoin Cash. I would say those are the main ones. You have some like lingering Dash people, like any of the Dash maxis that ever existed are at PorcFest. So there's some people there trying to still spend it, but Monero is the one where, in terms of crypto, where you could pretty much everybody's already willing to accept it, or you get them to accept it. There are some vendors that are like only accepting Bitcoin because they just like have it set up like the way their POS system is set up. They're using like whatever, they're accepting Bitcoin with Lightning, like some of like the larger vendors, like the pizza guy. I don't think he was accepting other cryptos. It was just Bitcoin because the way he had his like POS system set up. That's a shame. But mostly everybody is willing, if not already accepting Monero, is willing to do so on the spot. So super awesome. It's like Monerotopia for anybody who's been to Monerotopia. A lot of the themes and ideas for Monerotopia came out of going to PorcFest. Because really what PorcFest is, first and foremost, it's like a free and open market, as free as it can be, obviously within some legal bounds. But it's pretty amazing. You can buy lots of different things out there with your Monero. So you're experiencing it firsthand, you're living off of it. And then obviously we'll have the talks. So you'll be able to learn more, in addition to using Monero, you'll be able to learn about Monero, engage with other people that are into privacy tech. And like Monerotopia, it won't just be Monero only. We'll have other projects presenting, other privacy tech conversations, just opting out conversations, all that jazz. And to attend, all you need to do is get a ticket to PorcFest itself. You don't need a Monerotopia ticket. It looks like adult tickets are $100, they're saying here. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that is an amazing deal for what you're getting here. It's a week-long festival. Obviously, I wouldn't advise going. I wouldn't even advise going for the whole week. That's pretty hardcore. I mean, if you want to make a thing of it with the fam, you could camp there all week. It is beautiful. Campsite's beautiful. You're in the mountains over there in New Hampshire, in Lancaster. But it becomes a marathon at that point. you need stamina to last all week there. Showing up like Wednesday would probably be ideal. And we'll probably have talks maybe starting Wednesday, and then obviously definitely Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Sunday's kind of like a cleanup day, and everybody's worn out at that point and kind of making their way back home. So $100 for the PorcFest ticket, and then you just have to figure out where you're staying. You can, if you want to stay at PorcFest itself and rent a campsite, just figure it out on this website here. You'll figure it out. It's not that complicated. Be like if you're going on a camping trip somewhere, you got to rent a spot, camp spot. Figure out if you're just pitching a tent, parking your car there and pitching a tent, or if you're renting an RV, whatever it may be. A little more user-friendly option. There's a motel on the campground, but that usually fills up like right away. I've never stayed there, but cool, super accessible and it's really cool. It has like a pool. And I think there's other like cabins and stuff you can rent out on the campground itself. You basically have to call up Rogers Campground. It's like old school, which is it's kind of nice actually. And they're very responsive. You tell them, they'll tell you what spots are available. You can look at the map, and you'll see the campground map and try to get a good spot, something near the agora, like as far up. You want to be as far up front as possible, unless you want a nice quiet space. But the other user-friendly option would be to just rent a hotel or motel off campus. There's a couple right nearby. We could grab a room for decent price, and then you can just make your way to PorcFest every day and just drive in. I mean, traffic, like a lot of cars come in there, but if you show up early enough, you could do it. I think you could even walk from the nearest hotel out off campground. You could walk from it, so you don't have to drive in every day. And that is the spiel. And then obviously we'll be teaming up with MoneroCon. So if you can't make it to MoneroCon, and I always say this, if you can make it to MoneroCon, go to MoneroCon, just because we got to give our respect to MoneroCon. It is the premier Monero event. It was the first Monero conference. I've been going to all of them. I don't think I've missed one yet. No, this would be the first one I'm missing. And it's really because of family stuff. Just had the baby over here, so I can't make it over to Europe, and then I'm probably going to Europe at another time this summer. So can't really do the 2 European trips this year. So a compromise doing it. I'll be at PorcFest, and actually initially I was a little annoyed by the fact that they're overlapping. And this has happened in years past. We had to pick and choose which one to go to. But now I'm seeing the silver lining here, which is we could just make a big global Monero event. So I'm sure there's a lot of people that would love to go to MoneroCon but can't. They don't have a passport. There's a lot of those people in the Monero community that I meet that don't have passports. They're like, why do you do Monerotopia Mexico? Or I can't go to. So for those people, I mean, just make your way to New Hampshire, to Lancaster. You could drive in from Idaho, or wherever. You could, drive cross country, come over to PorcFest. So very accessible in that regard. And then we'll be streaming the content from PorcFest, from the Monerotopia stage of PorcFest to MoneroCon, and we'll be streaming MoneroCon's content to the Monerotopia tent, which is super cool. So because it's the way it's going to work out, we're in New Hampshire, they're in Europe. It's later, obviously, in the day for them, so we'll be playing all their talks like early morning at PorcFest. So as you're drinking your gratuitous coffee and kind of waking up, you'll be able to watch on the big screen, Luke Parker giving his update on full chain membership proofs, or Sarai, right? So which is super awesome. I think I think that's going to be really cool for people that are at PorcFest too, that maybe are know about Monero but aren't super into it, like these vendors I'm talking about that accept. Now they'll have access to come down to the Monerotopia stage and see a Luke Parker talk and start to really go down the Monero rabbit hole, which is super cool. That's all I got on that, and I'd say it's it's a big deal. It's gonna be big. I ended Monerotopia this year being all right, I'm not doing anything for at least a year. The next official Monerotopia is happening in Mexico, basically a little less than a year from now in February 2026. I was like, I don't want to do anything else. But Aaron really gassed me up, and like it is way too good of an opportunity. We had Aaron on here talking about it. He's describing it as this being the privacy coin moment at PorcFest, and I tend to agree with him. That seems to be where we're headed. Perfect timing. So a lot of big Bitcoiners and big, a lot of early adoption of Bitcoin came out of PorcFest. So now, we're kind of maybe seeing the same thing with Monero and privacy coins coming out of PorcFest years later. It's always been there, brewing, getting larger and larger, but now kind of might be a tipping point. So yeah, that's that. PorcFest, does it glow in the tent? I don't know. You're referring to, are there feds at PorcFest? Is that what you're referring to? Probably. I'm sure there's feds everywhere. It's very accessible. Anybody can attend. Very, very, very cool people at PorcFest. All libertarian, liberty-loving people. Very family-oriented. But yeah, I don't know what you're referring to there. Yeah, so I'll leave it at that. Tux, anything else we should be bringing up for housekeeping here?
Nope.
All right, I think that's it. Guys, email me for anything. You want to come on the show, you want to be a sponsor, you want to volunteer at Monerotopia at PorcFest, you want to start volunteer at Monerotopia Mexico City, or be a vendor at the PorcFest thing, for anything with any of these projects that are going on. You want to participate, email me, monerotopia@protonmail.com. Pork equals pigs. Yes. Well, it's pork as in porcupine, actually, not as in a festival of eating pork, which sounds delicious in its own right. But there is a pig roast usually at some point, but that's not the focus of the conference. It's pork as in porcupine, which represents the liberty.
Is the pig roast metaphorical?
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
I'm sure those comments are made every year. Everybody thinking they're making a unique comment on it. I'm sure it's become part of the usual conversation as everybody's standing around the roasting pig. Yeah, it's good people, good vibes. Monero early adopters, that crowd for sure. And yeah, I'll leave it at that. We got 90 live viewers. Guys, like and retweet. Let's get the word out. Let's get a bunch of people in here. Got a lot of, I would say, big news coming up, things to talk about that are happening in the crypto sphere, whether or not you think these are big things or just a nothing burger. It's fun to talk about. I think it's huge, like monumental, historic stuff, like, things that we talked about in the early days that will likely happen as the game theory dynamics play out. Now states need to get involved. Bitcoin is a technology. Crypto, Monero, it's just technology, right? Like the internet itself, and now the world is adapting to it, including the state. And so we have arrived on that scene. We've been here for a while now, but now it's like really, really embedding itself into the current system. We could get all into that. Obviously, there's people that don't like the sound of that and the direction things are headed, but it's like inevitable. It's like being upset that Bitcoin, like that chain analysis companies exist that can surveil Bitcoin. Like, it's a technology. It exists. We're all taking advantage of it for our own personal interests, including the state. And so if these things work as intended, while people will all be selfish in their interess, the overall outcome collectively will be us moving up and right towards more liberty and decentralization, if things work out as designed. But we could get all into that. Bawdy, if you want to go ahead and jump into price report, be happy to start with that.
yeah, sounds good.
The Monerotopia Price Report segment is sponsored by Exolix, a privacy-focused, non-custodial instant crypto exchange. Go to exolix.com to enjoy secure and completely anonymous swaps with no KYC or sign-up. Swap between Monero and 2,000 plus assets at the most competitive rates and with no limits. Exolix.com, your fast and secure way to privacy.
All right.
All right. Yeah. So probably everyone's quite aware that we've had some interesting developments, as you gentlemen have noted this morning. There's now a quote unquote strategic crypto reserve. They didn't mention Monero as far as I'm aware, but we know they have it. I don't know. Maybe they've been.
We know that they don't sell it.
That's what they say. But yeah, I mean, they seem to be pretty interested in suppressing Monero. So I wouldn't be surprised if they seize Monero and then they sell Monero on the dark nets or whatever, or sell Monero where they can.
Part of this obviously is that there's going to be an audit, right, of all of the departments to figure out how much crypto or what crypto the government has. Now, obviously, we don't know how accurate that audit will be, whether or not there's dark departments that are holding on to Monero that aren't going to be reporting it. I'm sure there'll be all types of theories. But I will state. Yeah, but I will say, if the end result of this audit and they don't mention Monero, then yeah, there's that will just be hilarious. Then I'll be out there screaming, why aren't they mentioning it? Which will be funny because we know for a fact that they've confiscated Monero. Jenna, I think her name is on X, put up a good tweet in response to my tweet where I was basically taking a public poll. We could bring that up at some point in the news of how many Monero we think the government may have confiscated. And she was posting some news articles that were referencing the different dark markets that have been taken down. We should definitely bring this up in the news. Tux, I'll send you that tweet actually. And so when you look at that, there's it was public knowledge. It was published that when these dark markets were taken down, or these different arrests that were made where crypto was mentioned, Monero was mentioned in some of them. So it can't be like they could, it's been mentioned that it's been confiscated. And I think she's saying at least 15K Monero on the low end. From what I looked at it quickly, I could see it, if you look at these, historically where it's been mentioned that Monero's been confiscated, I could see it being like 30K, 50K Monero. So I don't know. I think that's significant, just significant in that now the government is saying that they're going to have a crypto strategic reserve. What's interesting is in their language, they're distinguishing the two. For the Bitcoin reserve, they're clearly stating they're not going to sell it. It's it's literally meant to be a digital Fort Knox. They're just going to hold on to the digital gold. And then for the strategic crypto reserve, they're not saying that they're not going to sell it. They're just going to use it strategically, right? So maybe they'll strategically use it to keep the price of Monero down. I don't know, but they are going to. Reserve implies it's going to be held for at least some time. They're not just going to auto dump it on the market whenever they confiscate Monero. They're going to make a strategic decision, and if me being the ultimate Monero maxi and thinking these things will all work out and are all ultimately good, I do think at some point strategically it's going to make sense for the U.S. government to hold on to their Monero. They're going to want to hold on to this digital cash that the world is adopting and using. But go ahead, Bawdy. I just need to get my 2 cents out on that.
Yeah. So, if you stop and think for a second about the Ross case, if you stop and think about all of the Fed boys that stole all of the Bitcoin, you wonder if maybe they're stealing Monero because it's easier for them to steal Monero. Okay, yeah. So I mean, obviously, that's a pretty obvious thing that you would think that the deeper state would use their Monero for, right? Like, they're going to confiscate Monero, they're gonna grab it from dark webs, they're going to take it from anywhere that they can, right? Because they can steal it, it's free. And we know that they've we talked about that GDPR publication. I can't remember which European country it was, but they published. It was very clear. Like, they're like, hey, we should price attack Monero. We should try and get people to leave. And we know that they price attacked Monero. I personally think we have every reason to think that CZ himself is potentially wrapped up with these big finance bros and the government itself. He got a slap on the wrist the whole 3 or 4 months in golf course prison, because there's certain prisons that are pound me in the ass prisons. There's other ones that are that have a golf course, or at least a single hole that you can go play. I don't know which one Diddy and Sam Bankman are in, but it's probably not the worst federal prison ever. But yeah, so like, I mean, the whole point is that we know that they fractionally reserve Monero. XMRC is now doing it, which they're a bad exchange as well. Like, we kind of knew that from quite a while ago. They surprise KYC their customers, and they freeze funds, etc. And they're probably fractionally reserving Monero. So it's like, why wouldn't the government take that Monero? Why wouldn't they turn a blind eye to their agents taking that Monero and then selling it? Yeah, I mean, maybe not, right? There's probably still honest guys in there. We're speculating, but it would be interesting to see if we get, or how much Monero they claim that they have audited. They audited themselves, and, we're going to get to see what they tell us. Personally, guys,
SBF and Diddy are in MDC Brooklyn, by the way.
Okay. Is that a luxury prison?
I don't think so. Not it's not what it looked like, but SBF obviously was able to call into Tucker Carlson show live from some computer. So I don't know.
Yeah, they were able to make that happen. So Sam Bankman looks so healthy. So for those of you that don't know, Tucker Carlson had a podcast with Sam Bankman from his prison cell, live from New York. It's Sam Bankman from his cell, but he actually looks like healthy. It's amazing what not doing drugs will do for the radiance of your face.
Not doing
I don't know. Maybe it's just Diddy giving him some of the adrenochrome or something. Yeah. Anyways, supposedly he got kicked into solitary confinement for that little stunt. He's not supposed to be doing podcasts from prison. All right, but okay. So as long as we're on the strategic Bitcoin reserve topic, might as well talk about it now. Strategic crypto shitcoin reserve. Guys, they have held 200,000 Bitcoin since for like how long? Like years and years. And we're like, oh my God, when are they going to sell it? It's going to crush the price, maybe. But now they're just going to call it something different. They're just going to call it the strategic crypto reserve. Okay, cool. Nothing has changed. Nothing like, okay, formalities and the government like that. So I'm obviously taking a starkly kind of different position from Doug here. I honestly don't see this as being a big deal, except for a negativism against price has potentially probably been removed, and there's going to be some kind of formal audit, allegedly. I wonder if it's going to be as forthcoming and formal as the alleged Epstein files release. I wonder about that. You got to wonder why they redact so much and why this is a national security issue. And you got to wonder why Trump isn't like talking about that more, but that's not really price related. Anyways, I don't trust them. I don't think anyone else should trust them. I think it's a huge mistake to trust them. And I don't think that we should be waving the victory flag here just yet. I think we need to be very careful and on guard about this kind of stuff. Maybe I have to begrudgingly take the win if they actually do have Monero and then they declare that Monero is going to be part of, that strategic reserve. That's a win probably to the extent that, maybe it encourages exchanges and encourages people, hey, Monero is okay. Don't worry. You're not a criminal. Then that could be good for adoption. But I also wonder how much that distracts from the real decentralized solutions that are being built out and that people don't use them. So I think this could be a mixed bag. I think we should all be extremely hesitant to trust the government when they do stuff like this, because all I've seen the news from the past 2 to 3 weeks is especially fake and gay bullshit that like it doesn't look real. Like it just has this mark of WWF. I mean, that stupid fight from last week, like whatever. It all just looks so fake. So just, it doesn't mean you have to believe the opposite. Just keep it in your mind. Like keep the counter possibilities in your mind that, hey, maybe there's a psychological effect trying to happen here. But anyways, yeah, so we'll go on with the price report here. Let's start with the Monero chart. We're basically hanging out exactly where we have been hanging out. We've been talking for quite some time that, we want to keep setting higher lows. This is great. We have continued to set higher lows. And the Monero price has held up quite well as crypto has been in a little bit of woe and angst for the past, let's just say 2 weeks. In fact, we're going to talk about this, but we're starting to get those warning signs about that macro crash we've been talking about. So yeah, we'll get to the macro soon. Maybe actually we'll just cover Monero, go to the macro, and then go to Bitcoin, because I really want you guys to have the broader conceptualization. I don't know about you, but I like to see the full picture, the larger context, and then drill down to the details. It's Monero talk, so we start with the Monero price, even though it's slightly backwards, but that's fine. You'll just have to rearrange those chronologically in your mind. So you can see here, Monero versus Bitcoin, still doing quite well, still hanging out here at the upper standard deviation. With the kind of strength that we've seen this chart show, I would actually be a bit surprised at this moment if Monero didn't end up on the top side of these lines for a little bit of time. That doesn't mean that I think that it's just going to totally smash those towards the upside and then ride them to victory, back to where we broke down from here. I guess that would be around 4. So on the right here, I was thinking of a better way to say this. You could say that this is the number of this is how many thousand Monero that you can get 1 Bitcoin for on the right hand side. So at the current moment, it takes 2,540 Monero to get 1 Bitcoin. That's how you can think of this scale here on the right. I know it's weird. I just don't like 0.00 whatever, 0.000 on the right hand side. So anyways, yeah, the point is that I do think that we are going to be somewhat bounded by this upper standard deviation, but I do think that we're probably going to make it into this area first before any major reversal happens there. But we are getting close to what looks like at least a temporary reversal. There needs to be some consolidation in the neighborhood of where we're at, maybe a little bit just above where we're at, before you could hope that XMR might go higher against Bitcoin. I personally, have foregone all hope, just like Dante told us to do. So yeah, anyways, I think that Monero overall still looking good in the price. If we have a macro crash, guys, all bets are off. Monero's going to crash with the rest of the coins. But where are we going to crash to? I would say in a macro crash, that the 130 level is a really, really solid point to try and pick up some Monero. Maybe we truly have a complete, the bottom just falls out. Maybe things could fall lower. Personally, if you pick Monero up at 130 right now, you're doing really good. Yeah. You might have to hold on to it for a little bit of time if it really decides to wick down. But it's such a solid point to do it. It's hard to think we could get back to 100. If we do get back to 100, guys, fucking sell your house, sell everything, leverage your kidney, and buy more Monero, because 100 is such an obvious, easy place to pick up Monero and then know that you're going to have gains into the future. The only way that you wouldn't have gains is if the Fed just refuses to intervene and we have true deflation strike the economy for a period of months and maybe years. But that's probably not going to happen. They've said they're never going to let that happen again. If they do let that happen, it's intentional. It's because they actually want to just crash and destroy and burn everything. But that doesn't really serve them, I don't think. So they'll just reinflate. So anyways, if you see Monero at 130, smash the buy. If you see it at $100, leverage your kidneys. Put your children up as collateral for a loan. Yep. No, just kidding. Or maybe not. Am I? Anyways, so let's talk about the macro now. Here's the big thing that I wanted to point out. We've talked about this for a long time. Let me clear the wave magic so that this chart becomes a little bit more not retarded. So what we're looking at here is the price of oil. And, do we really start the macro with the price of oil? Well, today we do, because this is the lead signal that I've been looking for. We're actually going to cover this in a little bit more depth today than we normally do, so that you can see why I'm thinking what I'm thinking. You'll notice we had 3 days now close below what I consider to be a pretty important line. We have never closed an actual day on oil below about this level, at least for the past, God, how far do we have to go back here? How many years do we have to go back? 2, 3, 4, 3 to 4 years. We haven't closed this low on oil on the daily for 3 to 4 years. You'll notice that these were kind of the most recent closes, and there was a few of them just below that. But the point is, we've closed 1, 2, 3. 2 days below. All of the other days that this happened, you can see it was just down and up, right? Down and up, down and up. this was down, hang out down there, wick down to the low side, and then come up. If we go to the weekly, it doesn't look nearly quite as dire. I mean, it still looks pretty dire if you know what you're looking at, but it doesn't look great. But yeah, you can see that the weekly did close right at the bottom here of where these other weeks are. Again, it's this same pattern where I've been telling you guys, you know, we've been talking about this since last year, where it's like this pattern right here is like, it's ready to break down. This pattern is, hey, I'm trying to hang on. Oh, wait, look, we're not going to break. Oh, no, actually, we are going to break down. Like, this pattern is just bullshit. This is being propped up to the greatest extent that it can be. Whatever powers behind the curtain, whatever, they're trying to keep this thing from breaking down, because this is a very, very, it's probably fundamentally interrelated. Like, it breaking down is probably like kind of a snowball, like a contributing factor to further breakdown. I don't have the theory on that like fully formed. It's more of an intuition than anything. All right, but I want to come back. I want to take a step back here, and I want to tell you why that I think this is such an important thing for us to be looking at. It's the when the economy caught a cold in 2020, this is what happened. So it's this part right here circled in yellow that I'm mostly concerned about. So let's start with where the major crash happened. The major crash happened on this candle. So March 2nd, 2020. That's where the crash began in earnest. Everyone realized like shit was going down. But what you'll notice is that oil broke down out of its trend well before that. So let's just draw some lines. Like, here is a good way to draw that trend. Perhaps maybe you could draw it like that, or you could draw it, if you wanted to, you could draw it like this. Doesn't really matter, right? In general, what you're looking at is, okay, here's the trend. We could even drop a horizontal line here as well. I changed to LibreWolf, and for whatever reason, I don't have my quick keys anymore, so I've got to be retarded and do it slow, but okay, whatever. There we go. There's a horizontal line. So you'll notice, right, that effectively the last time we had a macro crash, it was preceded by, first of all, oil dropping out of its trend a little bit early, and then continuing to crash down below the major trend. And so the point is that I have been watching this as a potential, watching oil drop out of its trend as a potential corroborating sign and perhaps an early warning sign. And that's what we're looking at, right? So if we're looking at, we could look at this line right here, right? We could look at this line right here. There's a few ways of drawing the pleb lines. Again, that's why you have to be careful about drawing stupid lines. You didn't draw one line and you have, the scroll that leads to the truth of the markets. You have a line that might be useful, or it might be invalidated if you switch to a different time frame. The point is that oil is now dropping out of trend, and we've talked about forever that this is yellow, right? This is flashing yellow, and this shit on here is flashing red. If you see oil closing multiple days into this level right here, it is time for you to sell your more dubious shitcoin positions. Absolutely do not take a long, and if you are so inclined, open some shorts. I wouldn't say open shorts with a huge percentage of your stack. I would say open shorts with a small percentage of your stack. But it is that would be a terrible sign for the macro crash for the markets. I personally want a macro crash. I've got, a nice chunk of cash sitting, waiting, ready to pounce on these markets. If and when that happens, I will probably even take a short. So yeah, that's what's going on with oil there. Just know that it's a problem. We also have some corroboration when we look at the dollar index. Let's again clear the wave magic here. Also, wave magic, all bets are off on wave magic when you start to enter these kind of like tail risk macro crash conditions. You get levels broken. Oftentimes you end up at these really huge headliner levels and you'll tag them. That's what happened with Bitcoin, actually. We tagged the lower standard deviation cluster in the last macro crash on March of 2020. And it was beautiful. Some might even say that it was fantastic. We smashed that line, and then that was the buy point. So yeah, okay, we're looking at the dollar index here. We have similar action now happening in a dollar index as happened with the last macro crash. So it's dollar down, everything down. So stocks down, gold down, dollar down, everything down. And then the dollar pumps. And so right now we're actually seeing a pretty big fall off in the dollar index. And I will show you that. I will prove it to you. Let's go to the weekly. So you can see it again on the weekly. That's quite a big candle, right? We haven't seen that large of a weekly down candle in the dollar index since right about here, right? Since the end of the bear market at the end of 2022. So let's go backwards a little bit and take a look at what happened during the great cold of 2020. So you can see here, look at the bottom. That's 2020, 02, 24, right? So February 24th. And you'll notice what happened in the lead up to the crash. And on the first major crash, right, on 302, the week of 302, you're seeing big moves down in the dollar index. You even see in the next week a continued down movement in the dollar index with this wick right? And then it recovers once everyone realizes that the intervention is going to happen. But the other part of that too is that the dollar is the least ugly belle of the ball when it comes to macro crashes. Everybody across the world is like, the dollar is the safest. They know that the printing is going to be excessive, and that the dollar is going to be slightly less excessive than the other fiat currencies. So people go to the dollar. I thought that I had the S&P on here, but let's put the S&P onto a new price scale. Let's take a look at what the S&P does. Crap. Let's change. Sometimes it's me. Sometimes it's TradingView. Sorry about the delay here. Okay, there we go. S&P is in the bars now, so that makes it a little bit easier for you to sort of visualize what's happening here. So again, S&P starts dropping, right? Here's its high. Here's its complete ultimate high. The S&P crashes, and then it crashes again while the dollar index is also crashing, which is really they're not perfectly correlated. They're not perfectly anti-correlated. You definitely get correlation, and it happens over long periods of time. But it's not common, right, to think, oh, the dollar index is crashing and the S&P is crashing and gold is crashing and everything's crashing, right? That's not typical. So if we continue to see this, right now we're I'm like, hey, this is really bad news. This looks bad. We're flashing yellow right here. I think there's a good chance that by the end of the next week, so by the time we're on the horn again next Saturday, we should have better resolution into whether or not this is actually the macro crash. But this is the moment for you guys to take notice. We've talked about this a lot. This is now okay, I'm, that I'm telling you, don't sleep on this, right? If you were so inclined to try and take advantage of these kinds of things and or try and protect your stack from these kinds of things, do not sleep on this. This is the time to really be wide-eyed and paying attention. Whereas before, we've been talking about it a lot, but I've been saying, hey, we're not quite there. It's not incipient. This looks like the beginning of this really looks like the beginning of a macro crash. We can't say for sure. It's not confirmed. I'm hoping next week we'll get the confirmation. So I know that's a bit repetitive, but I just want you guys to really, really understand that, hey, this actually needs to be looked at, and you actually need to watch it closely. Another thing we'll be looking.
It's happening. Sound the alarms.
Yeah, it's like Ron Paul. It's happening, but in a bad way. Okay, so here's the reverse repos. We've also talked about reverse repos. How much money do they have to smash into risk? How much higher could things go? I'm having problems seeing where the liquidity is going to come from to take us to, to take Bitcoin to 150K, 200K. Where's that liquidity going to come from? And that as reverse repos rise, that's money coming out of risk assets, so out of stocks, out of crypto, out of all the high yielding, high risk, high return kind of stuff, and going into safety, right? They're putting it with the Federal Reserve, trusting the Federal Reserve, trusting JPOW. Now, one thing we have not seen in the reverse repo markets is spike, drop, but not all the way drop back down, and then more spike, right? If we see this happening into next week, that is also another bad sign. And I mean, I'm kind of hoping, because I've been waiting for this stupid macro crash, right? I said, hey, maybe December. That was kind of politically motivated. And I was like, okay, that's not going to happen. But now, my call has basically been for late March for this thing to happen, since the miss in December. And I don't know, I just kind of want it to happen because that's opportunity, right? I mean, I shouldn't want people to lose their jobs and all the bad stuff that happens with it, but I guess I'm selfish or something. Anyways, point is, if reverse repo starts doing this next week, that would look like the first time that we've ever seen a sustained up move in the reverse repos, really since the top of the bull market, or sorry, the beginning of the bear market. No, wait, Jesus Christ, why can't I speak? Since the beginning of the bull market, when reverse repos peaked at above 2 trillion and then started moving down, right? So after this last sustained move that happened right there, reverse repos basically just down, with spikes that would immediately come back to the downside, spike, downside. So again, the point is that we're trying to draw multiple signals. We're trying to corroborate one against the other. We're trying to paint a coherent picture. I don't want to rely on just one signal. I don't want to just rely on one set of astrology tea leaves. I want to rely on a whole bunch of different astrology interpretations. So the point is that if we see reverse repos going into an uptrend next week, that is another corroborating signal that we will match against the dollar index and US oil. So all of this, very, very important, guys, for those of you that really are interested in leveraging the opportunity of a macro crash to either wait and then buy low, or to take a short and then close those shorts. Okay, so we've got gold here. Gold has actually been performing quite strong, like relatively strong, considering how much everything else has had problems. Effectively, gold closing only 1.3% down from its all-time high. I guess we could take a look at the weekly and see where the weekly's closing. Yeah, I mean, this still looks like a very strong chart, but don't get me wrong, macro crash sends gold down too, but it doesn't drop as far and it recovers faster. So if you got your gold and you anticipate a macro crash, yeah, I suppose you could try and sell it and then get back into it. That's really hard with physical. You incur a lot of friction, and I think that friction is planned. I don't think that there's any accidents about that. I mean, obviously, yes, it's a lot of like there's a free market at work, and you have the spread, right? You have the gold spread on bullion when you buy and sell physical. So like if you're holding physical, now's not the time to try and sell it probably. You're going to want to wait till they do the macro expansion, right? Till they expand, they do the intervention and liquidity expansion again. Then gold will pump to some high, some great glorious height, and that would be the time, hypothetically, to sell your physical gold for something like maybe property, right? Or an airplane. I don't know if anyone sells airplanes for gold. I'm praying, hoping that would be pretty cool. Anyways, so yeah, gold's doing surprisingly good despite the general environment of malaise. We can kind of like corroborate this again with the S&P 500. You can see we've taken a bit of a tumble. It's been a rough and tumble here for the S&P, down 7%. That's not, like, historically speaking, in the recent history, that's not terrible. Like the S&P has dropped 9% there, or really 9.5%, 6% there, right, in the past like year or so. So that's not terrible. Let's go to the weekly, but because I want to show you guys. The S&P is now in danger of sort of losing this channel. It's trying to hang on, right? It's like closed at that low. And again, like these lines, you have to give them some slop. This is not a hard line in the sand. This is a reference point for your eyeballs. But the more that this drops out of trend, the more that you become concerned. This was kind of a funny little deal right here, but I think that was I don't remember what that was. That's the end of 2023. Was there any kind of scare? I can't remember what happened there. It wasn't the bankruptcies of the banks, or the few banks. Anyways, whatever. The point is that this trend is looking dubious now at this moment. It either needs to hold and make a big comeback, or it's going to probably break down. And the macro crash thesis, let's just say I'm like 60-40 now that we've entered the crosshairs, that this shit's about to go down. So I'm 60% probably macro crash, 40% maybe not. And hopefully by next week I'll have better like personal, swag probabilities. That's a scientific wild ass guess for those that don't know what swag means. Same thing with the NASDAQ. It has also actually broken down from its trend. You can see like a much more clear breakdown. Again, one candle closing below isn't full breakdown. That can be fake out territory. It's happened before. If we see next week closing, especially if it closes even lower, like that's a pretty clear sign that something is awry. All right, so hopefully that makes a little bit of sense for you guys. Hopefully that's a decent enough macro picture. I know I talk fast and I know we cover it quickly. There's just a lot to cover. And I don't want to sit here being, lollygagging for a freaking hour on the price report. But there's a lot of stuff that's important for you guys to keep in context and for you guys to watch on your own time if you are so inclined to do so, and try and trade what's going on there. Personally, I actually don't like trend trading. I don't like, I don't typically like to, I don't know. I just don't like to trade on the shorter time frames. I really like to take advantage when there's massive opportunity and then chill like for the next year, 2 years, right? I very much appreciate making a big score in a single moment and then just chilling, as opposed to having to work for my meal every day. So, but that also, like, to do that requires you to have a decent amount of deployable capital, right? So if you're working with 10,000 or 50,000 in savings, of deployable, or of total net worth, savings, investment, whatever, that's a little bit harder to do, than if you're working in 6 figures plus, where you can move some big money around, you can find the moments of max opportunity and then make moves there, and be a little bit more patient. Maybe you have a good paying job, right? Maybe you're making 6 figures a year, just on your regular day job or whatever. In which case you can also probably be afforded that opportunity. Anyways, that's just some things to think about. And that's why it's like, you can't give good advice for everybody, because everybody's at a different position. So a lot of times you'll see me kind of like, well, you could do this, you could do that, right? I'm just giving you ideas. You're going to have to talk to your own financial advisor, who is obviously me. Obviously that's me. Anyways, just kidding. So let's go to Bitcoin. Bitcoin's been having trouble, and we could talk about this in light of the strategic reserves that it's happening. Yeah, it's happening. All right. But like, this shouldn't be happening. It should be up here. guys. Bitcoin, this has been like the heralded event that everybody, right? This is almost like adding Bitcoin to the Chicago Mercantile Exchange in 2017. December 17th, 2017, Bitcoin added to the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. And that was literally the day of the top. Or April 14th, 2021, Brian Armstrong lists coin on the NASDAQ, and it's happening, right? Where the integration, finally, it's here, the acceptance, the institutional, the governments. And that was literally the exact fucking day of the top. And what's happened here? It's something not quite exactly the day of the top, but it finally got announced. The government said they're doing it, right? They're not actually buying any Bitcoin. Like, that's the other point here, guys. They're not buying Bitcoin. They haven't committed to buy anything, to buy shit coins, to buy nothing. They haven't committed to do shit other than to say, oh, we're just not going to sell the assets that we stole from people like Ross. Okay. So now they're just like kind of like declaring the legal thing that they can hang on to the coin. I mean, okay, in like the broader psychology, crypto is accepted. Crypto is already fucking accepted. They already accepted on the NASDAQ. There's already the ETFs. For Bitcoin and for Ethereum, and then I think Litecoin got their ATF. Like, it's just, so this is like, it's more like a headliner news thing, but where's the price? You know, like, show me the money. There's no buys happening from the federal government. If anything, they're just more encouraged to steal even more so that they can just add it to their reserve. But the point is, the more important point, despite my exasperation, let's pull it back some, is that this spike right here was the announcement of the strategic reserve, and then it came immediately back to the downside and didn't get followed up with any strength. That's horrible price action, guys. That's fucking terrible. This is not the kind of price action you want to see. What should have happened, quote unquote, would have been like a recovery into this area and then breaking of that and then consolidation, you know, and then up here. Nothing like that has happened. Now, maybe anything could happen with the markets, right? Maybe they could just be jacking the shit around, and eventually, you know, they're washing out the shorts right now. Could that be the case? It's possible. It's possible that could be the case. I'm not totally sure that in fact is the case. In fact, in light of the macro crash kind of metrics that we've been looking at, this looks like the final sort of like a good amount of liquidity entering the markets for all the people saying, oh my God, it's here. We're doing it. Like, the government is doing it. We're winning. We got the Trump. We got the fantastic things going on. And then yet the market is dumping. It looks so much like a liquidity dump, so much like a, what do they call it? Exit. I'm not, help me out, Tux. What's it called? Exit liquidity, I think. Yeah. This is their exit liquidity at the top, right? So, and we know that Trump loves to launch shitcoins and like play that game, which, okay, whatever. I don't care. Meme coins are probably more honest in a lot of cases than a lot of other coins, because they don't claim to be anything more than funny, funny dog or whatever. But nonetheless, like, we know that Trump doesn't have any kind of aversion, right, to playing in that game. And certainly the people around him have no aversion to that either. So in the more the more specific sense of TA, what we're looking at here are these standard deviation bands. And these are somewhat short-term bands. So let's zoom out a little bit. You can see that we're going all the way back to 2024. Okay, so this was the breakout that happened. We finally got above the all-time highs right around November 4th last year, as Trump got elected, and everyone knew that this was the Bitcoin president, or now it's the shitcoin president. That's fine too. But what the point is that here you're looking at these upper standard deviation blue bands. Okay. Typically, the way that I see this stuff play out is you have this bullish momentum, you have this bullish trend, and these upper standard deviation bands are supposed to act in a bullish environment, are supposed to act as support. You should maybe come down and touch these bands a little bit. Hopefully you can see them. I tried to lighten everything on my chart, make them brighter, so I think you guys can see this better. But the point is that this should be a clear support, and you shouldn't just be wallowing down here at this support. It should be like wick down and then come back up, right? Right now, like, it's already broken down. Like, it's already broken down below these bands, and now it looks like it's even going to break down further. And this is really, really common. I see this when things turn bearish. You break down from the bands, you act like you're going to recover them, but then you come back down here and then you break down further. And at this point, you basically would have to expect to touch these lower guys down here. So am I calling for Bitcoin 65,000, 60,000? Yeah, probably. Just on the basis of the TA, yes, that's what this chart would show. That doesn't mean it necessarily has to play out, right? We're not talking like, I'm not like, this isn't my God, this isn't my astrology God here. I'm just telling you what the TA says in this perspective. And if you look at it in terms of a macro crash and that possibility, well, that certainly makes that even more likely. Let's go to the regression analysis just to get a quick look at that, so you can see where your absolute maximum opportunity would hypothetically be. We'll take a look at this on the weekly so that it's easier for you to see it. Probably most of you guys are familiar with this chart. If you're not, well, it's because you're not paying attention to crypto, which is okay. That's maybe you shouldn't. Okay, so this is obviously the 2017 high. This is the 2017 low, and then this right here was the that whole thing that happened in 20. Oh, I didn't mean to draw a penis on the screen. Sorry. Happened in 2020 when the economy caught a cold. And so we wicked down, right? We wicked down. We had, let's do a measurement here. I think we've done this like in the past week or so, but we'll do it again. That's 60% down. Bitcoin dropped, crashed by 60% in the last macro crash. And this green line is actually defined on this wick, right? It's partially defined on this point down here. I know you would think, hey, why wouldn't you define the lower boundary of the regression on the basis of the actual bear market low? And the reason is because this wick down here was actually more divergent from the model than the low was down here, because it happened so much further in time. The point of showing you guys that is that, yes, it is possible in a macro crash for Bitcoin to wick down to this green line. And I know that seems crazy. It would put us, hypothetically, if it happens soon, like let's just say beginning of April, that would be minus 66% from the top, very similar to what the last one was. And that would be at about 37,000, right? That would be definitely panic and blood in the streets, no doubt. I'm not saying that it definitely will happen. I was kind of expecting that we would touch this green line down here, and we missed it by 10%. So maybe this green line is off by 10%, right? Maybe it's actually 10% higher becomes the macro crash low, in which case would put us closer to 40,000. But that's still pretty, that's still pretty blood in the streets territory. So if I'm trading this, and it probably will be, your first opportunity to maybe think about along would probably be this area, right? So you're looking at the previous wick highs or weekly close highs, right? So you're looking somewhere around this area, which would be about 70,000, right? That's your first kind of like obvious headliner spot to take along, maybe get some bounce there hypothetically. But then if we're truly in a macro crash, it's not going to stop there, guys. It's going to go much lower than that. So just know that a lot of bets have started to become very dubious in this past week or so. So back to the wave magic, we would say in a wave magic sense, you would be looking at these blue lines right here. These are kind of like obvious levels. I like that the moving average clusters, the very longest term moving average clusters, are sort of coincident with where the regression analysis would put the lower boundary. So right here, right about 40,000. So again, just thoughts, things for you guys to consider if you're looking for places to pick up. Again, if we hit this green line, and I know it sounds crazy. I know it sounds crazy for us to hit 40,000, but if we touch this green line, that again is leverage your children, right? Again, sell your kidney, etc. Put it on loan. To buy, could be Bitcoin, whatever you want to buy, right? Same deal as we talked about with Monero. $100 is the place to do that. So yeah, that's what we're looking at for macro crash eyeball levels. Let's take a look at some more relatively happier things. Let's go back to comparing XMR to other stuff, because what doesn't make you feel good when you're doing good to compare yourself to other shitcoins? We can see that Litecoin has lost its luster. Litecoin here in blue was trying to be cool, hang out with Monero, and then it kind of fell down. I wonder if that has anything to do with the significant amounts held by certain parties that launched this coin and got it listed onto Coinbase and used wash trading bots to make it seem like people were adopting it. Whatever. Litecoin fell back down out of it. Monero is now currently in the Z-score realm, doing better than all of the other coins. Not surprising. Monero does good when markets are flat, slightly neutral, down, slightly up. When things are steady state, Monero tends to do better. Monero is outshined when leverage is smashed and pumped into the markets, and they're just putting all the shit coins high, including the daddy shitcoin, not Andrew Tate's shitcoin, but the big Bitcoin himself. Yeah, because all of the leverage gets pumped into these shitcoins, and everyone's like, oh, shitcoins, they always outperform. So the market also helps to make that a reality. Like, it's kind of funny how the people behind the liquidity are able to sort of synthesize realities in the market by making them pronounced enough that the plebs all like, oh, hey, that's just what happens in markets. And hey, what can I say, guys? I do the same shit. I believe it too. And well, that's just how it works, right? It's not my fault. That's how it works. Okay, that's what every scammer says. Okay, to the Bitcoin dominance, it's still just sitting here. It's kind of chilling flat. I would have to expect that we're going to get some stupid wick at some point here, especially if there's a macro crash. Bitcoin is going to outperform. There's going to be a ridiculously retarded wick up there. That'll probably mark, if you see it, if you see this huge wick and then back down, that'll basically mark the end of this trend, the end of this run. And then especially if you get the liquidity expansion, as I just mentioned, it's going into shitcoins, right? It's going into, I won't mention any particular shitcoins, but you know which ones. You know which ones I'm talking about. Basically all of them. It's the same thing that happened here, right? Bitcoin set the new all-time high. You got these wicks. Bitcoin maximalists are like fapping about how they are going to go to 90% and then destroy and crush forevermore all altcoins because only one coin can ever win. And if that happens again, then that's a good opportunity to flip everything into altcoins and just forget about Bitcoin for the rest of the bull cycle. But for now, Bitcoin's still doing quite good. We still, where's alt season, bro? It hasn't happened. We are, I said, a couple weeks ago, it should be happening now. If it's going to happen, it should be happening, and it's not happening. Probably because there's no liquidity for it to happen, right? Just like I kept saying, where are we going to get the liquidity to go to 150K? Maybe if we just incrementally get higher because everyone's, they get their little bit of STEMI check and, they got their job, they're working their JOB and they're putting a little, they're buying sats, they're saving sats here and there. Okay, over the course of a year or two, maybe you could incrementally get to some higher level. But at the moment, where's the smash liquidity? I don't see it. So, but hey, again, we're looking at potential for macro crash and intervention. Maybe it's just a mini crash and a mini intervention. That could do it too. I don't know. They'll probably give everyone $5,000, like Trump talked about. Cool, I guess. So with that, I don't feel like looking at the privacy coins. They're not relevant. They're all, look at this. This is just shit after shit. They're crashing. Firo's down. Xano is like crashing. Darrow is just, if there's never been a more lull chart, I don't know what is. Zcrash continues to perform as you would expect a 20% dev tax coin to perform. Whatever. So fuck those fake ass privacy coins. Well, maybe not Firo. Take that with a grain of salt. Okay, Monero transactions. Let's take a look at this. We're still hanging out around 28K, 30K. Let's go to a little bit longer time frame here. So you can see, we're kind of setting higher lows on these transaction counts. I'm not seeing necessarily bigger, higher highs, but that's fine. Like higher lows is kind of the name of the game that Monero has been playing. It's interesting how that's a little bit similar to the price chart. Let's go to the mining, the hash rate per day. Let's see what's going on there. I actually haven't looked at this at all this week. Looks like we're taking a little bit of a tumble here. Hey, what the hell? Come on. I don't know. It doesn't want to play nice with me. Whatever. So kind of hanging out here. Looks like things might have flattened off here at 4 gigas, but that's fine. 4 gigas is pretty good. It's better than what we had before. Hash rate is basically looks steady. I'd be curious if we do get a macro crash. Does this hash rate stay steady? That would be like a really positive sign if hash rate doesn't fall with price, if there's a big crash coming here. So I don't think that there's, maybe there's a couple more macro fucking things to look at. Oh, we didn't look at bonds. Obviously, we have to look at bonds. I know that's the most exciting part of the day. Everyone wants to hear about bonds. So bonds didn't actually do anything. Like bonds are, so they're making their way down. This is kind of the beginning of what you might see, but it's really like nothing has happened here with bonds that are concerning, which I think is interesting, right? Because that's one of the big signs we've been talking about. We're waiting for bonds to start like violently, at least like probably violently moving to the downside, or I should say the rates moving violently to the downside. That hasn't happened here. But we are just looking for violence in general, right? Violent moves, volatility in the bond market. We're looking for that. And that actually has not been forthcoming. So that would be a bit of a counterpoint to the incipient macro crash. You would expect there to be more volatility here. So perhaps we are a little bit early, right? We were looking at that breakdown in oil. That did precede the macro crash by like somewhere between 2 to 5 weeks. When oil like first broke down out of its trend and then continued breaking down, back in 2020. So maybe we are still a little bit early. Perhaps we are 2 to 4 weeks early here, but it's time to start paying attention to that 100%. Unless things just reverse on a dime next week, that's going to continue to indicate breakdown if things don't improve in those regards. There was also, it looks like the GDP took a big tumble, right? So GDP, and they always revise these numbers. So maybe this data point here changes. But the GDP as of January 1st, 2025 looks like it went negative. That's like massively negative, by the way, guys. That's minus 2.4%. So that's also another like big headline concerning thing that would again support macro crash thesis. And we had some unemployment numbers come out on Friday. Again, as we've talked about, the SON rule has already triggered. but it triggered from being down here at 3.4% unemployment rate, which is historically extremely low. Like we almost have never been there except for 1968. Wow, holy crap! If you go back in the 50s, they just couldn't find enough workers. I guess because so many people had fought and died in World War II. So, anyways, the point is that historically we haven't seen these numbers, 3.4% unemployment since back in the late 60s, early 70s. Anyways, so unemployment has spiked up. Technically, that would trigger the SOM rule, which again means that it's a foregone conclusion that there will be a macro crash. The question is just when. The latest numbers we had did tick up. That doesn't really say anything for us here. Any more tick up beyond this, any more spike, like let's suppose we get the numbers in April and the macro crash has not arrived yet. If this number spikes up in April, like above this level, that's like foregone conclusion that yes, macro crash is imminent. But right now that doesn't actually give us much actionable contribution to our picture here. So that's fine. Don't worry about that. And I think that's about it. Let me make sure I've at least checked the comments here because I don't think I have checked the comments. We have MI6. I appreciate the Brits coming here to sing out. I don't know, Tux, if you want to put that comment on.
Which one?
I don't know. Maybe it was already covered.
No,
maybe I'm hallucinating a super chat here.
Yeah, I don't see any in the comments.
You know what? I think that comment was made before the show. If you look at the time on it. So that's why
I can't see the
Oh,
time
you're
on it,
looking
actually.
at XMRchat itself.
Yeah, if you look on the XMRchat.
Yeah, that must have been before because I don't see the.
Yeah.
See it on the live feed.
What did he say though? We could address it. It was kind of funny.
The MI6, our lovely Brits across the pond said, word on the grapevine whispers that more pedos than usual could be turning into today's show to evaluate the coin's overall efficacy. Keep that in mind. Okay.
Yeah, I think he's probably referring to the OPSED FUD that's out there. Obviously, I mean, it's not FUD in that it's real. It's FUD in that this what's being said is that the Monero community has been ignoring this and like trying to hide the fact that there's this weakness when that's obviously not the case. I mean, on this show, we talk about it all the time, just the weaknesses of ring signatures in general. And specifically, we've had Rucknium. We've had Rucknium on the show twice. He presented at Monerotopia twice, virtually. I had him on, I think, recently after the last Monerotopia. So all this has been very much discussed for years, for like 4 years. But I think that's what he's referring to. And obviously, short answer is it's all, fingers crossed, going to be a moot concern, given that full chain membership proofs will hopefully be implemented within the next 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, I mean, that seems pretty important given the data that Rucknium has found. There's some other comments here on the YouTube where
we could have Rucknium on again. We talked about we should try to do that since that seems to be a hot topic right now, the OPSED stuff.
Yeah, it probably really is important to get him on so that we have a solid contextualization for what his research actually says. Because even I'm not totally confident. I mean, overall, yeah, like ring sizes apparently have been. It's not that I shouldn't say anything because I don't actually know, so I'll just shut up. But yeah, I would like to hear what he has to say to contextualize his findings for us. We do have some YouTube comments. So UTXO points out that, yes, so XMR divided by US BTC times 1,000. No, that was incorrect. 2,560 Monero does not buy a single Bitcoin. It's more like 400. Sorry, I would need to
I hope that wasn't a premonition, Bawdy. Jesus Christ, you scared me with that one.
Yeah, I don't know.
No. We're going the other direction. We're going so I think we get to the point where 100 Monero gets you a Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see, right? Like, honestly, guys, I think it would be a mistake to be like excessively optimistic about any particular timeline where Monero like outshines Bitcoin. We just don't know. There's a lot of if there's a liquidity expansion that's going into Bitcoin, they're not putting it into Monero. So that's, we could see this chart might not become the most amazing chart yet. Eventually there's going to be probably bigger movements into Monero. There's going to be higher visibility. Maybe there's some big court case where it says, hey, Monero is allowable, or maybe there's some big announcement and people continue to see the reason for why you need privacy. you know, I mean, in my mind, Monero is growing like lava, right? We're just slowly, steadily making progressive movements. You can't stop us. Too many people love Monero. Too many people keep getting into it. But lava doesn't necessarily like, I mean, yeah, okay, if the volcano explodes, you got the pyroclastic flow is just going to freeze everything in its path, but, or, you know, blast everything in its path. But otherwise, lava just, you know, slowly eats everything. So I think we got to play the long game. And I don't want to tell people to get like extremely ridiculously bullish on the relative Monero Bitcoin price when I'm not confident that we should be. So that's all. I hate to be, you know, a Debbie Downer over here.
But at one point there will be that explosion, right? Like you said, the lava flows. But I don't know. I think that's a pretty accurate analogy. I do think at some point there's going to be a moment where Monero catches fire. I don't think we've seen that yet.
There very well could be. There could be.
Yeah.
I don't think that we have like a solid. There's nothing in the immediate horizon that I can see that would be like, yeah, that's going to be the thing. So I wouldn't discount the possibility.
Listen, I love things the way they are. It's a nice environment to live in. You just go all in on Monero, live off Monero, and then try to earn Monero. And no better time to do it than now, when the price is reasonable, right? Like when you look at it big picture, it definitely seems like Monero should be worth more relative to other cryptos, given the organic adoption that's happened. So great time to stack Monero, earn Monero, and grow with the network. I see it as a great opportunity. I get a little uneasy when like the prices start to go up, like really start to like rocket up, or like I feel more comfortable when Monero's. I like the bear markets better. I know it might sound crazy, but I feel like I'm emotionally happier during the bear markets, head down, working on Monero-related businesses, trying to grow adoption and earning Monero, knowing that it's going to continue to go up big picture over time. I know. I mean,
personally,
like
I don't want to see
cope,
price
but
spikes.
that's like my personal take on things. Actually, now I do enjoy, like, you know, don't get me wrong, when you start to see it, you know, go up, it's hard not to be excited about it. But then it's like you got to think, all right, like, well, now what am I? You know, if now it forces you to stop thinking of it like as money, right? And you're like, okay, wait, do I got to worry about like moving this now and try to like, right? And obviously that's what you were talking about with just making big trades, right? That's one way to do it. You don't have to obsessively watch the markets, but just wait for a big moment and just make one or two big moves. But even that's, you know, stressful. I like to just build and stack.
Yeah, I mean, it's better. You're actually in the real economy. You're actually selling things for Monero, and you just expressed the reason why we don't actually want to see massive price volatility, because your unease there is a direct result of knowing, like, okay, well, now Monero spikes. Now I'm taking in Monero for things, and is it going to crash? Am I going to sell my products for a very high price Monero and then have to wait a year or two for that price to return to the current level? I would it's much healthier. It's better for everybody involved, for merchants. It's better for people. It's better for the Monero chart itself and for the price itself to make slow, steady gains, right? You go up, you know, nice, gentle movements toward the upside, little bit of wicks here and there, like come back down, and then more gentle upside movement. There's a reason that the cabal manages the NASDAQ and S&P prices in that kind of fashion. They give you nice little steady gains so that you generally feel good about it. And it's generally more stable, right? It's better stability, and that spells more real world usefulness as a currency for Monero. We have a comment here from Nico Magno on the YouTube comments. He's asking about M2 money supply and the global liquidity increasing. So we're looking right here in green is the US liquidity, and then in white we're looking at the global liquidity, and it hasn't really increased that much. It's just slightly. But overall, U.S. liquidity, like the liquidity picture, has been flat. So this encompasses both reverse repos and M2 money supply and the Federal Reserve balance sheet. So all three of those are wrapped up into this. We could wrap the treasuries into that. or sorry, not treasuries, the U.S. Treasury. What the hell is it called? U.S. Treasury balance sheet. We could wrap that into this equation. I sometimes enjoy doing that. I sometimes don't enjoy doing that. In this case, if we were to include the U.S. Treasury balance sheet in this calculation, it looks like it's slightly lower here. But overall, this has been pretty flat. The global liquidity and the U.S. liquidity have both been pretty flat. Although, if we go and take a look at the macro situation, here's the M2 money supply. So the M2 money supply has indeed been going up, but the Federal Reserve has also been selling off its balance sheet. So that effectively has kind of neutralized the M2 money supply moving towards the upside. Federal Reserve have been selling their balance sheet, and I think that balance sheet, what they're selling is primarily the mortgage-backed securities that they acquired in 2008. They have to do it extremely slowly so that they don't totally crush the market, but it does have the effect of withdrawing liquidity from the markets. So that's kind of like a balancing act they're doing. They really can't do it in the long term because overall it's a deflationary component in the market because money is being destroyed there, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Anyways, yeah, so M2 money supply have been rising, but overall, the overall liquidity situation is flat, and when you account everything together. So that should be the answer there for you, Mr. Magno.
All right. I don't know. Pretty crazy to think that the price of Bitcoin could go down to where you're saying 40,000.
Yeah,
that's
40.
Pretty wild, man. That'd be awesome. I would be like, wow, this is great. You know, I do have, in the bull market, any cash that I am making on the, in the fiat world, I'm not throwing into crypto, right? Just waiting for the next bear. So that would be an interesting opportunity. I'll be honest with you. I mean, it just seems too good to be true, type of thing. It just seems too aligned with the market. Like the markets obviously, right, always do what we collectively least expect them to do, right? Or not always, but at instances. So I feel like to put more people in pain would be if Bitcoin just kind of like never really, kind of fake out and just takes off. It does feel like it could be one of those moments.
I still don't see where the liquidity is going to come from. The hardest thing I can't imagine is where is that liquidity coming from? I just can't see it. Like we've got.
Well, I mean, we have nation states like that are saying they're going to hodl their Bitcoin. So
they're not buying Bitcoin.
They're not buying. Yeah, that's just.
Yeah, but that's just scare. That's adding to scarcity, and it's that's got to be priced in, knowing that there's going to be less Bitcoin.
I think that's already priced in. If I'm being honest with you.
Yeah, but is it priced in that? Is it priced in that Germany is going to announce the same thing? That Russia is going to announce the same thing? That I mean,
but like, I did find it interesting. I think Bawdy, you brought up a really good point comparing to previous crashes. Is that this event, like, there was so much, there's so much excitement around this event, like to the lead up of it, of the creation of the strategic reserve, and now that it happened, it's like, oh, that's it. And it wasn't to the degree that people wanted. And it was funny watching it sell off. Like there was a little bit of a dump happening as that meeting was going on. And I think it's possible that its institutions are front running the retail who was like trying to buy up thinking that it was going to pump. Because there's a lot of people saying, oh, Bitcoin's going to be over 100K. There's going to be some, it's like, no, none of that happened. But
yeah, I think you're right there, Tux.
Like, and don't forget they. Oh, go ahead, Bawdy. Finish your
point. So I think that when it was clear Trump was when Trump won the election, I mean they had talked about it. Both him and RFK were like strategic Bitcoin reserve, right? We're Bitcoin president. I think a lot of that got priced in, right? That was the pump. That was the movement to the upside here, and it's kind of like a sell the news event potentially. And for the past couple months, we've seen the social fabric of crypto give us these kind of like top signals. Like I've seen all this stuff in the news and I'm like, God, this feels so toppy. It feels so, like in the social sense, it just feels like this, it just, something didn't feel right there, but you can't really trade on that necessarily. Anyways, go ahead.
Well, listen, I'd love to see that. That would be my most fun route. Like that's the route I'd like us to go on. But that's why I feel like it won't happen. And, it'd be great. Sailor now starting to, announces that he had to sell Bitcoin or something as it goes down, a perfect storm. That'd be great. It'd be nice to have one of those moments. But Trump administration is full speed ahead, right? They came out, they announced this, they're moving forward with it. They did announce in that executive order that they're going to do an auditing of all the crypto they have. Once they have that audited, they're going to make moves with that crypto. There was, I think we have it in the news. The crypto czar basically said in a recent interview that he would consider selling Ethereum for Bitcoin, right? So things like that are going to be having an effect on the market. And they did say they are, while they're not using taxpayer dollars to obtain Bitcoin for the reserve, that they're looking into other means of obtaining more Bitcoin without spending tax dollars directly, right? So that could be things like announcing that you can now pay your taxes in Bitcoin, right? Now they're acquiring Bitcoin. That would be bullish. Like we were saying,
pay your
before,
capital gains taxes in Bitcoin.
Pay your capital gains taxes in Bitcoin. Yeah. Pay your income taxes in Bitcoin on the federal level, right? So now they have more Bitcoin coming in. They're not using taxpayer dollars to obtain it. So things like that, I think,
It doesn't bother
soon.
you.
I don't think it's that pie in the sky. I don't think it's going to be like, oh no, that's never going to. I think we're going to start to see announcements like this.
It doesn't bother you that before they made some kind of deal, the art of the deal to either reduce or eliminate certain income taxes, or to eliminate the capital gains tax, that they put the tariffs in place before that. So now, even if they get rid of the income tax later, eliminate the IRS, gut the IRS, they still are double dipping. They're still double collecting. Now there's tariffs and there's income taxes. And we have to hope that in the future that the Trump administration actually does do something about income or capital gains or whatever. Doesn't that bother you a little bit?
Yeah, it does. I'm just stating what's going on, right? Well, not what I want not what I want things ideally to be, but how I see things playing out, right? And so I think, I don't know. I see a potential. That's where I see as being a potential pump scenario for Bitcoin and crypto. I do think because of this other strategic reserve, if they start talking about these other cryptos, that they're also going to be holding. And then, like I said, other nation states starting to say the same things too. I mean, I don't know how that's not uber bullish in terms of more capital going into crypto.
That could be long-term bullish. I wouldn't disagree that there's a long-term bullish component there. But that kind of thing is going to take years to play out, right? So, is that the thing that's going to support Bitcoin to sustainable 200, 300K prices, 500,000 plus? Yeah, sure. Over the course of years. But that doesn't necessarily mean that has to be bullish immediately. In fact, it doesn't sound like any of these guys are actually purchasing Bitcoin immediately. At best, it's the removal of a potential negative. But the removal of that negative might already be, as Tux said, that might already be accounted into the price just on the basis of the Bitcoin president having been elected, and price movement from November until now.
Neil has tipped $1.23 paying taxes in Bitcoin. Yet another attempt at KYCing transparent blockchain wallet owners. Yeah, there you go. Right. So it's a win-win for them. So I could see this. I could see that being announced. I wasn't even really considering that, but yeah, that's just all the more reason why they might want to do that. What do you think the reaction would be in the market if it were announced no capital gains on crypto transactions?
Yeah, that's massively bullish. In fact, that's 200K almost overnight.
Would there be an initial sell-off though? Because now people are now selling. You may have OG Bitcoiners that are going to just sell into liquidity that have been holding. They're just sitting on 100 mil of Bitcoin. All right. Now I can just liquidate without capital gain, and they don't want to take the risk of that law changing with the next administration, and they're just
in the immediate sense they might sell some, but that would actually be mega bullish, because you're going to see a shitload of traditional finance move assets into crypto, saying, "Hey, we don't have any capital gains on this now." That's a leg up of 10 to 20% maybe 25% in some cases, depending on how short. I think it's, I don't know what the actual capital gains is. It's somewhere between like 10 and 25%, depending on how long you've held the asset. But you would see massive movement from big finance all the way down to your mom and pop pleb that are like, wait, we don't have capital gains now on this particular asset. Yeah, that would be mega bullish. That would actually pump price very quickly. That would be the kind of catalyst that I'd be like, yeah, okay, 150, 200K incoming soon.
We need to get bit license eliminated in New York and capital gains on crypto eliminated in New York State. That would be amazing. But so, I mean, what do you see as the odds, Bawdy? I mean, do you just think that's like complete pie in the sky? Trump administration will never give that to us?
I don't know, like 2%, 1%,
okay.
0%. Like,
it'd be fucking crazy. It'd be fucking crazy if they did. Oh my
we
God.
want to talk about something that's too good to be true. Like, that's definitely something that seems too good to be true. That effectively makes it money. That effectively gives all crypto the power to be money. And then it also opens up this, well, how do you define crypto and what is a crypto? And can you like finagle an ETF that represents the movements of a stock price? Can that be crypto now? That's technically a crypto ticker. So if I own an ETF that represents the movement of, I don't know, the NASDAQ index, I don't have to pay capital gains on that. It's such a, like, it's such a hairy issue. And I think probably it takes an act of Congress, and you know how that goes.
Yeah. And it could just be right that they would only apply it to what we say American-made cryptos, like whatever the fuck that is.
Yeah,
So
what is it?
It's definitely
There you
Trump
go,
coin
Trump
is
coin.
number one. You don't get more American
Solana,
than that, so.
maybe. Solana created in the U.S., I feel like, right? It's probably started. I mean, it's so centralized, it could be controlled probably mostly from the U.S., right?
Yeah. Are most of the nodes run from the U.S.? Maybe, probably.
Probably. Pretty sure it started in the United States, and the original nodes were in some data center in the U.S. Someone correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of just in general in the whole political environment here, I am a passive watcher and a skeptic to the core. But like, I won't believe any of this shit until it actually happens, right? Until, like, I won't believe they're going to declare their Monero holdings until they actually do it. I won't believe they're going to release the Epstein files until they actually do it. What did they release so far? A heavily redacted list that just like gives up a few people, but not the actual people that we should really know about. Did I lose you guys?
Nope, still here.
Okay.
I'm just eating.
I'm just reading something. Sorry.
Eating leftover steak right now. How do I put myself up on the screen here?
We have a YouTube comment. JK Gucci XMR says, set up account for tips on XMRChat.
What is he saying? Gucci XMR. Are you referring to my question about XMRChat needing private keys? Oh, here we go. Yeah, I did see this. Where is this? Up here. Explain why XMRChat wants private keys. We want view keys. We want view keys because that's how we can see the transactions coming in using LWS, right? So you create an XMRChat account. You have to paste in your, the wallet receive address that's going to be with that account. You need to create a new wallet that's only used for that account, right? So if you're using Cake Wallet, just generate a new fresh wallet. Don't use a sub address. Create a new wallet for your XMR chats. You paste in the receive address, and then you have to add the view key so that the server can identify when a transaction is received. Everything is peer-to-peer. All the Monero that's sent to that address is going directly to you. But LWS just needs to pick up that the transaction was sent so that, obviously we can then be notified to bring up the message and broadcast the chat. So that's the reason why you need to provide a view key. All right. Instead of using the view keys, there's a verify that you sent this transaction feature on Monero's GUI. Wouldn't that be better? I don't think so. we can look into it, but I think this is the way to go using LWS. This is how we do things on XMR Bazaar. We're not even using LWS there. It's even more rudimentary. Kuno, right? They're taking your view key as well to track the donations made. I mean, this is how you just create a separate wallet just for this purpose. But yeah, I don't think there's currently another better way around doing that. I don't know, Tux, Bawdy, if you have thoughts there. We could get Fiat Demise on the show again. Or
that's a manual process, though.
Yeah.
That's not the purpose of this tool, right? It's designed so that someone can just send, and then the service itself can be like, oh, yep, it can check and see if the transaction was received, and then it can show a super chat. Yeah, Bawdy. I think Bawdy's got some background noise going on. Let's.
We could get Fiat Demise to come up one of these days. Talk
Your
more
mic's
about XMRchat.
got some background noise. I'm just gonna mute you if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Who turned off noise cancellation and keeps sniffling? Sorry about that. Yeah, we could have Fiat Demise come up and we could do a show on XMRchat. Anybody who wants to ask questions about how things work, but it's pretty smooth, and you hold your own keys, you hold your own Monero, all the Monero gets sent directly to you, no fees are taken. So there's no transaction fees, only the Monero network fee. So like a fraction of a cent for somebody to send it to you. And I'd say it works pretty well. Actually, I think we should probably try to hook it up to the OBS on our end too, and then we get the instant Tux. That's pretty easy to do, right? And we could still use StreamYard, but just or is it
someone has to be sharing their screen all the time for it to show up, essentially.
Somebody has to be. We can't have it if we're using OBS and then use OBS through.
Well, if you want to also use StreamYard at the same time, yeah, someone has to be sharing their screen. So that, well, I mean, there's not really a way to use. Oh wait, I see what you're saying. Sorry, someone's using their camera through the OBS because OBS can basically create a virtual camera, which you can overlay stuff on top of it. But then that person who has the virtual overlay has to always have their camera on. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, basically, yeah, exactly.
You would have to. Someone would have to always have their camera
you
on.
Could bring in an OBS feed
and
into StreamYard, right?
It would need to be full screen the whole time for it to be readable. So it would not really work with StreamYard, unfortunately.
Okay, not worth it.
Hey, just real quick on the audio on my background noise. I'm on LibreWolf right now, and if you go into the audio settings, it says reduce background noise, but it says the browser is not supported for background noise removal.
Okay. We should on our end. We could. Well, you can just mute, obviously.
Well, that's just for FYI for anyone calling into the show.
Oh wait,
or
so wait,
I could
Brave
or something.
I could click reduce background noise on you now. I just.
It's not going to actually turn it on though. It makes you
Okay.
think you're turning it on, but it's not because this browser doesn't support it. Yep.
Untraceable is asking Doug, was that steak bought with Monero? No, it wasn't, but that's what I was daydreaming about. I just put it in the chat. Somebody needs to start selling dry age steak with Monero and XMR Bazaar. Start shipping out dry age steaks. How do we get that going? Is that I'm sure there's like a Bitcoiner doing that, right? Somebody accepting Bitcoin. Maybe get that guy on. Start accepting Monero.
Well, I guess we can go ahead and move into the news.
Let's do it.
All right. News time. Let's go.
The Monerotopia Weekly News segment is sponsored by WizardSwap.io, a non-custodial cryptocurrency exchange.
All right, just gonna pull up my screen here. 1 second. Dealing with the technical difficulty. Oh, okay, looks like I'm going to have to restart my browser real quick. 1 second, guys.
Untraceable saying, time to start a farm. Yeah, couldn't agree more. I think that's like one of the ultimate goals, right? That's one of the most base Monero paths in life. If it ends with you owning a farm somewhere.
What's the anyone know what the latest is in Austin, Texas? There's like a whole bunch of crypto people there, Bitcoiners, etc. And they're all like carnivore, meat-eating farmers markets attending types of people. Have they set up like a little circular economy with Lightning or crypto or anything going on there in Austin? I feel like that would be a good spot to try.
Yeah, I think we got some Monero bros over there too. Yeah, I'm sure it's happening in ways. Yeah, I don't know the details. I think you got people there like selling beef for Bitcoin and stuff. I don't know how vibrant the circular economy there is on a Bitcoin level. Definitely ripe for Monero adoption, though.
All right, guys. I get the news here. So first up is a post from Derek Bros. Here's Robert Kennedy Jr. calling for people to get the MMR vaccine, the same vax which he and others have previously said was connected to autism. Defend this MAGA/Maha. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Measles outbreak is call to action for all of us. Yeah, it's kind of interesting to see how quickly, in such a short period of time after RFK becomes health secretary, how quickly he's kind of been going back on some things that he would have been against before. And I guess that's just part of the position, or maybe that's just really who he is. I don't know. But yeah, that was definitely a little bit surprising. However you feel about this MMR vaccine, RFK definitely was against it before, and now he's, I guess, been saying people should take it, which is weird. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was disappointing to see RFK kind of pivot on his overall stance on vaccines, it seems like. So, yeah, I guess nobody should have been surprised.
Yeah, not surprised, but still, disappointed. Next up, we got PeterSchiff, Mr. Gold. Donald Trump, the first crypto president, just helped pull off the biggest crypto rug of all time. A congressional investigation is now warranted to find out the following regarding this pump and dump scheme. Who authored the 2 Sunday afternoon posts on the president's Truth Social account? Who knew about the first post in advance and when they were first informed of the wording of the post and timing of its release? How much money those with advance notice spent buying XRP, ADA, sold BTC, and ETH, and if they sold, the exact timing of those sales and the proceeds received. We also need all emails or text messages that involved any members of the president's staff, his or their family or friends, his campaign donors, or Truth Social employees that relate to either of the 2 Sunday Truth Social posts. Yeah, that was a really crazy, weird, super fake like pump, and then the next day it immediately came back down. It seemed very oddly timed, and it was on a Sunday afternoon too. It seemed oddly timed and really fake, and yeah, interesting. And then, of course, all that steam blew off, and by the time the crypto summit ended up happening, it was like not that big of a deal. So, next up, we got a post from Samson Mao. Now we know what confined means. No more Bitcoin bias for El Salvador. I would have preferred to hear it from the Bukele administration than from the IMF. So there's this image here that says Bitcoins by the public sector, Bitcoins in all hot and cold wallets, owned by or under the control of the public sector, including Chivo, which is that custodial Lightning app. And all other public sector entities, legal persons controlled by the state. Voluntary accumulation of Bitcoins includes purchase and mining of Bitcoins that excludes the accumulation of Bitcoins resulting from forfeiture, seizure, apprehension, custody, or other form of property or possession by the government arising from law enforcement measures adopted in accordance with the Salvadorian law. So it looks like if El Salvador is going to go with that IMF loan, they might not be allowed to just like buy Bitcoin like they have been. If I'm interpreting this correctly, I don't know if Bawdy has any comments on that. And it looks like they may have to also go with civil asset forfeiture, which is the same way the U.S. is going to build their reserve, is by stealing taxpayer money, but in a different way. Instead of, well, using taxpayer money to buy Bitcoin, they're just going to steal Bitcoin from the taxpayer. So regardless, it's stupid, but yeah, El Salvador is probably like we've seen recently, they've been having to walk back on some of their Bitcoin things to try and be in line for that IMF. So next up, we have a video from Right Angle News Network. Breaking: 3 Democrat Senators Schumer, Warren, and Booker have been caught plagiarizing the same script word for word. Let's watch this video here. It's not too long. Let me know if you guys can hear it.
Prices are not down, they're up. Inflation is getting worse. Prices of grocery, gas, eggs of essentials. It's not getting better, it's getting worse. Meanwhile, Donald Trump has done
Hard to hear. I don't know if you can turn it up.
instead.
Tux, I don't think anybody could hear, man.
You can't hear it, Bawdy. Can you not hear it?
I cannot hear it.
Oh, now you're telling me.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Bro, I
Thanks.
said turn it. It's hard to
Sorry,
hear.
I was
Can you turn it
walked
up?
away. I hope you guys enjoyed that moment of silence as we all.
I did turn it up. I thought that would let you hear it better. I thought hard to hear meant that you could at least hear it.
We could for a minute, and then he turned it up, but somehow it muted. But also with these people, maybe it's better that we just don't hear them. It's so
Yeah,
good.
It's true. This doesn't really give you anything useful.
it is pretty wild to see and witness. I think there was like how many of them at the end? It was like 23 different like political figures and media, basically all saying the same exact propaganda speech.
I mean, is this really surprising? Like, people have done this across the aisle. Have been given a script, and it's funny, but and I'm getting an echo. Oh, it's Doug. Doug's echo. Thanks, Doug. All right. Next up, we have a post from Untraceable. How do we get such weak men in crypto? According to some people, like House of Yagi X-Men and others, we shouldn't build anything decentralized or permissionless because it might be used by the wrong people. We need KYC on chain and the ability to freeze people's funds. I'm sure only the good guys will ever make use of such Orwellian features. For the record, $0 was laundered through Thorchain because ETH, BTC, and Rune are fully transparent. The flow of funds can be followed, and the BTC they swapped is still tainted. If anything, this helps Thorchain's reputation.
It helps, quote unquote, their reputation. With who exactly? That's what I want to know. The Fed boys?
Yeah, true. Yeah, I've seen interesting stuff about Thorchain in relation to this the North Korean air quote money laundering. I mean, not all of it can even be considered laundering because some of it's like, going through fairly transparent swap services, but yeah, I don't really have any thoughts about that, so you guys can make up your own opinion. Next up, we've got a post from Monero Maverick. We now have an interactive web of the Monero ecosystem at monero.eco. And if you go to this website, it's kind of an interesting graph here. I believe this was made by Schmidt. It's got an interesting graph of the Monero ecosystem. and various services, tools, softwares, websites you can use. Some of these things probably shouldn't be on here because they don't even exist yet. Like Sarai doesn't even exist yet. I wouldn't really bother putting stuff on here that doesn't actually work or doesn't exist yet. It probably just confuses people, but otherwise it looks really cool. And it does have a lot of useful things on here. So yeah, if you want to see like all of these things available and how this map is set up, you can look at Monero.eco. Next, we've got a post from JP Thor. After I'm done with my current efforts, I am 100% going to release a XMR Monero swapping protocol. Hate to break it to you, but Kayabanerv will never release Sarai Dex. Ooh, we've got some fire going across the aisle over here. Mr. Thorchain is saying that Kayabanerv will never release Sarai Dex and that he is going to release a Monero swapping protocol. Now, I don't know why they didn't just do one for Thorchain. My understanding is that there were some technical limitations that was preventing that from happening. I don't really know the details of that. But that is interesting and definitely a fiery statement indeed. So I guess we'll see if anything comes out of that, or if it's just talk.
It's exciting to see. I don't like that he's like kind of insulting Luke. I mean, Luke's been a phenom. He's been working on full chain membership proofs, so he's kind of got an excuse as to why things might be taking a little longer than expected. We're 100% behind you, Luke. Hoping you'll make it to the finish line on both. And I mean, he's already accomplished a lot with full chain membership proofs. It's not just like vaporware stuff. I mean, he's figured out how to implement it. And we know he's made a lot of progress with Sarai. So that regard, I don't like it, but I do like to see that there's competition out there. And this guy is saying, hey, I'll step up, create my own version of Thorchain that now accepts Monero or whatever hires Monero as a pair. That's pretty exciting to see. I don't know the whole history of this guy. I was, part of like the drama with trying to get Thorchain to add Monero back in the day. That's actually where Sarai Dex grew out of. Luke Parker, seeing that there was a need for this. A lot of this kind of took place at the first Monerotopia in Miami. Thorchain was there. They were presenting. They were talking about ways in which it could potentially be done. Havino was working on it. They were contributing to it. And Luke was there witnessing it, and he walked away from that conference wanting to build the solution himself, which is amazing. So a lot of history there. I don't know this guy, JP. I guess he was one of the actual core devs of Thorchain, right? Does he work on the Maya protocol and all that stuff? So, I mean, he's somebody with chops that could actually go build this. So exciting to see. I mean, obviously, the more competition, the better. If this guy sees there's a need for it and he wants to start trying to build his version, I think that's great.
Yeah, agreed. But moving on here, we've got a tweet from David Sachs. Fact sheet: President Donald J. Trump establishes the strategic Bitcoin reserve and used their last stockpile March 6, 2025. Yes, we covered this. So I'll go ahead and move on. Pledditor tweets, Crypto Czar David Sachs said, yeah, I think that's largely fair. When Jason suggested the Treasury Secretary should sell off America's ETH holdings to buy more BTC in this 26-second clip. Let's see if you guys can actually hear it this time.
Ethereum is, hey, this thing's waning. We just put it into Bitcoin because we know that's the more solid one. Yeah, that's what I'm reading into it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's largely fair. I mean, look, I think that the stockpile should be subject to good portfolio management, right?
Excellent.
Unfortunately, we have a Secretary of the Treasury who is an extremely successful former hedge fund manager. So he's going to figure out the best way to manage these assets, and we give him the flexibility to do portfolio management.
So maybe the decision with Ethereum is, hey, this thing's waning. We just put it into Bitcoin because we know that's the more solid one. Yeah, that's what I'm reading into it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's largely fair. I mean, look, I think that the stockpile should be subject to good portfolio management, right? Excellent. Unfortunately, we have a Secretary.
So let me turn my mic down now. So yeah, David Sachs is suggesting that the Treasury Secretary basically sells the ETH to buy more BTC. Don't really have any comments on that. Bawdy, anything?
Given what we know about the way these people operate and their recent history, I think we should consider that what they're saying is intended for psychological impact, and then ask, what is that impact? Why do they want that?
Yep. Government wants to buy ETH cheap, right? Retail sell off and buy it up. I mean, you know, did the same thing with Bitcoin. Yeah, I think I realize what's happening. I think the direct audio share is not working properly. So when I play video, it's actually my microphone's actually picking it up. So I'm just going to keep doing that for now. Relating to the OSPeed, there is this interview that was done in the crypto show that has Arctic Mind and Duke Leto. I don't know who Duke Leto is, but we all know Arctic Mind. Very awesome legend in the Monero community. And they had a conversation about OSPeed and like the effectiveness and if it's a concern. So I'm going to be watching this later because I haven't had a chance to watch this yet. And if you're interested, you can watch this interview over on the crypto show. That'll probably be good. And then we got a tweet from Douglas Tooman himself. Hey, PeterSchiff, download Cake Wallet and drop us your Monero receive address. You will experience anonymous and private digital cash donations to your stockpile. No one will see how much you are being sent. Better yet, also create free XMRchat.com page, and your followers can send you Monero-based super chats as a way to send you a Monero tip with a message to get your attention. No fees taken, just a Monero transaction fee, which is a fraction of a cent. Yeah, because we all know at this point, PeterSchiff actually kind of likes Monero because at least it provides the privacy part. He doesn't really care about Bitcoin. He's not really that much in on the whole like digital gold narrative, but he at least likes Monero to the extent of what it provides that Bitcoin does not. And of course, with Bitcoin here, he's jokingly sharing an address, telling people to help him with his own strategic reserve, right? And just send Bitcoin to him. You know, it's just you're sending Bitcoin to him. That's it. But the funny part is that, of course, you can actually see how much he's gotten. So if I go to mempool like that space here and I paste his address, you'll be able to actually see how much this address currently holds and how much he's got. Now it looks like I should
have taken a screenshot of that and pasted that with the tweet. You should retweet that ahead of.
So it looks like he got some at some point. He got 2 transactions plus 0.025 BTC. That's a lot. And he sent it all out. So it looks like he's been getting some Bitcoin through here.
And he's sending it all out.
And he's sending it out.
Traced. Yep. Where's he sending it to? Follow his Bitcoin. Follow him. You should do a whole video on this. I'll get like a quick tracing video of PeterSchiff, and then recommend Monero. And then he also mentioned in his tweet that he's looking to acquire other cryptos as well. And then he mentioned Solana. So he should have a Monero. I honestly don't think it's that far fetched for him to download Cake Wallet, post a Monero address. Now's the time.
I will not be sending any crypto to PeterSchiff though. If you guys want to do that, be my guest.
Yeah, I'll send him some Monero. Why not?
Next up, we've got. Oh yeah, this was the last thing. Actually, second to last. This went viral this week. If you haven't seen it, Tucker Carlson did an interview with SBF, Sam Bankman-Fried, the crypto scammer of FTX. It was an interesting 40-minute interview. Whatever you want to think about him, it was interesting. Probably puts him in a better light than maybe it should be. But it's interesting to hear him from prison because he's been in prison for like 2 years now. And crazy enough, he's actually in the same prison that Diddy's in. So maybe Diddy and SBF have been getting the freak on. I don't know. Hard to say. But they are both in MDC Brooklyn. So, yeah.
Maybe it's time to bring out the maybe maybe Diddy and SBF are getting it on. I don't have exactly any reason to say that, but maybe could be.
It's possible.
Let's just make as many allegations as possible.
Oh my
Just like
God.
with that whole Monero inflation bug. There might be one. We don't know.
And last thing we have is this tweet from CoffeeZilla. Sam Bankman-Fried's plan, if he got caught, Lamau, go on Tucker Carlson, come out as a Republican. So assuming this is true, this does appear to be a leaked Google Doc that Bankman had that exactly outlines his way of getting out of trouble. If it were to happen, trouble did happen. And one of those steps was to go on Tucker Carlson and come out as a Republican. So that is very funny. And that is exactly what happened to a degree, is he came out Tucker Carlson and sort of came out as a Republican, trying to shift favor into the current administration, which is Republican, after donating millions of dollars to Joe Biden's campaign. So yeah, that's funny. That's really funny. And among a few other things in here, come out against the woke agenda. Talk how the cartel of lawyers is destroying value and throwing entrepreneurs under the bus to cover up the incompetence of lawyers. And then leak another document. Ooh, probably not this one. This one wasn't supposed to be leaked. Come out as extremely pro-crypto, pro-freedom. Go with the strong message of, I have funding ready to make customers whole. If only the Chapter 11 team would care about customers. Yeah, so very, very extremely scripted. Like almost sociopathically scripted. Yeah, that's really funny. And does kind of make the whole interview seem really like fake. Because it's kind of exactly what happened. Yeah. And I believe that was it for the news. Any comments, Buddy? Or Doug?
I would like to say it's been real. Unfortunately, it hasn't. At least not the news.
It's been really fake. It's been really, really fake recently.
Real fake news. Coming at you live.
Yeah, I got no further comments on my end. All right, we could move to viewers on stage.
Yeah, I just sent the StreamYard link in the comments. If anyone wants to join up, I'll go ahead and run the intro while I can hear Doug snacking on something over there, probably steak. Grass-fed steak made in Monero.
Yeah, I had some leftover steak and eggs. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Best
Eating
meal.
like a king, a Monero king.
Oh yeah. Life's too short.
It's the Viewers on Stage segment. It's that time where we invite you, the viewers, up on stage to comment on anything you've heard so far today, ask the guest a question, or maybe talk about one of the news topics. Come on down.
All right. If anyone wants to come up, please feel free to. I have dropped the StreamYard link in the comments. It is a quiet day. It's a very quiet day. Alaskadon just texted me he can't come on today, so it'll be extra quiet.
Pretty crazy because things are not quiet in crypto right now.
There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear.
A lot of fear, right? Fear, uncertainty,
it's excitement.
Doubt. Yes.
But I do like how Monero has been
what's the
holding
fear,
up.
though? I mean, people. You think a lot of people think that crypto's gonna dump here, like Bawdy was saying, 40K.
Yep. I mean, I think that like a lot of crypto Twitter is still very like bullish on like, oh, Bitcoin's gonna reach ATH again, and either that or like alt season's gonna happen. But there also is a lot of fear. There's talks about like macro crashes happening, so corrections, all that.
Let's at least. So we just played viewers on stage, right? Yeah. We should also at some point just play the guest segment at some point. Anybody? Oh, we got.
It's
REMSee.
okay. I'm always capable of shilling Cake Wallet. I could talk about it for an hour if you want me to.
Why do we make REMSee today's special guest? I don't think REMSee has ever been the special guest. He's obviously been a viewer on stage.
No, yeah, I'm always on. Alaskan on talks for like an hour, and yeah, yeah. I don't know. I didn't really, honestly, I didn't watch the earlier part of the episode. I just like came up, saw it on YouTube, and then like saw viewers on stage. I was like, all right, why not? So let's send it.
Awesome.
How's it going, REMSee? Thanks for joining on.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I'm excited. I saw you were talking about someone might be building ThorChain, might be doing a new integration. So yeah, that'd be exciting because yeah, we still need some more activity to the decentralized networks.
You know, do you follow that well, the ThorChain and whatnot, and ThorChain?
No, I think I used to like. I'm a developer, so I used to do like I used to play around with like the atomic swap thing, but I never like really actually got around to like creating a whole thing. But yeah, it seems like you would want to do something with EVM atomic swaps. But yeah, nobody's built a user interface for that yet, or at least created some version that has enough liquidity. And yeah, obviously there's risks, and yeah, also like risks from a financial standpoint and from a or I guess maybe less the case now, but from a legal standpoint, you also have to worry about that.
Tux, let's play the special guest segment for REMSee. Let's make this official. What are we doing here?
The Monerotopia guest segment is sponsored by Cake Wallet. Store, send, receive, and exchange your Monero and Bitcoin safely on iOS and Android too. Cake Wallet is open source, and you always control your own keys.
Wow, I really truly feel honored. Like I'm sponsored by Cake Wallet. That's amazing.
We just got used to you hanging around here too much. We never gave you the special guest podium. So yeah, well, tell us more, man. Tell us more about yourself, actually, if you don't mind. What you're willing to divulge.
Oh yeah, I'm just an AI. Yeah, I don't actually look like this. No, I'm just I'm a software engineer. So yeah, I work in right now everyone's. I work in actually crypto. I work for a company called Lit Protocol. But yeah, everyone's obsessed with AI agents right now. So that's really what I'm working on right now. But I don't have I didn't bring any material. Obviously, I don't have a whole lot to say.
AI agents that are doing what? Like crypto related?
Yeah, anything. That's just any hype. Yeah, there's like in the Solana ecosystem, there's like AI KOLs, which are like trying to move markets, run pump and dumps as AI. And then also as far as like, there's also some legitimate e-commerce use cases, like a travel agent. Like when you book travel, there's like probably like 3 different things you have to do at the minimum, like your accommodation, your plane tickets, and like it can be complicated. So you'd want to have like an agent where it's like, hey, can you book me this? And it automatically does it in a few seconds. But then, I have definitely thought about like some Monero use cases where you could have like a chatbot that can send you anything. But yep, no, I wouldn't encourage anybody to do that. I would never do that. I would never encourage anyone to create.
I have been thinking about how we could like have something on XMR Bazaar to kind of automate things there for people. I guess that would essentially be the solution.
Yeah, a chatbot is definitely a conceivable concept of something you just add in the corner or something. There's plenty.
How do you do it in like a privacy preserving way, and then
there's encrypted messaging services. If you want to trust Telegram, I think they're at least in name encrypted. But there's an encrypted messaging service called XMTP. I like that. Is basically an Ethereum wallet. Basically gives you a messaging that lets you message between Ethereum wallets privately. So if you own an Ethereum wallet, I own an Ethereum wallet, we can both log in as that wallet and then talk to each other in an encrypted way. And then since you have the financial data from Ethereum right there, you can do more privacy related things, or at least permissionless related things because it's on Ethereum.
Yeah, I was just thinking in terms of like an XMR Bazaar chatbot, like how we could have something like that, but then also have it be privacy preserving, and so people know like their conversations with the chatbot aren't being recorded right on a server somewhere.
The hard part, I think, with that, right? There's probably some way to do it, but it's like the context length is small, so it's like you can't really give your chatbot I mean, I assume XMR Bazaar is like thousands of listings. I assume so. That would be like larger than the context. But yeah, if it was only a few hundred, maybe you could do that.
Okay. So yeah, man, what is your Monero story of what you're willing to tell us about it?
I'm just a holder. Yeah. I haven't. I mean, yeah, I've always just been interested in trading crypto and stuff. But yeah, it's like it's gotten too hardcore. It used to be like in 2017, you could just basically buy whatever you wanted. I feel like, and it wouldn't rug pull. But now, like, everything is designed to be a rug pull, and so I feel like it really leaves Monero alone as something where it's like, okay, it has utility. I mean, and Bitcoin. And that's what they were saying. I saw the all-in thing you were talking about. He said, like, we're open. Right now they think Bitcoin is unique, but they're open to the concept of, if something is more unique. I think Monero would meet that, but obviously the market cap is like 1,000x less than Bitcoin. I think they're looking for like 100 billion market cap. So yeah, I don't know exactly where I was going with that, but yeah, my Monero story. Yeah, I mean, I'm just a holder now because, like, yeah, I use things like coin cards and stuff to actually spend on things. So if I want to spend Monero, I'll do that through coin cards most likely. But yeah, that's other than that, I just hold.
What so how are you feeling about the Monero ecosystem overall? Obviously, you've been watching things for a long time now. I've been involved for a long time. What's your current take on where we are?
Yeah, with I mean, obviously, I think everything is at the end of the day driven by price. Because if the price goes up, then Monero people can invest into Monero again, and then that grows the ecosystem. And so there's a feedback loop there. And obviously, we're not above our all-time highs, but I think that we're good technically. I mean, Bawdy definitely talks about this, and yeah, more than I do. But yeah, I mean, if the price goes up, then we can invest more, and it also, that's just the way crypto works. Is it's hype based, so it's like it almost seems like if you 2x, it makes it more likely that you'll 2x again. Whereas if you're like, Monero is kind of stable and boring, so nobody in crypto touches it that much.
Right. Its current inertia is to be stable, so therefore it just stays stable until there's some event. Do you foresee us trending towards a value that would seem more reasonable compared to other cryptos, given our?
I mean, we already are. I think the year over year is like up 50% right now. That's phenomenal growth. I mean, if we saw 50%, I mean, yeah. I see Monero is kind of like growing slow. Like the goal is like, I think if we were going to get into the trillions or something, it would be like you want to see like 35% per year. So right now we're actually beating that over year. And so, yeah, if you grow at 30, we're growing at 50 this year, but yeah, we'll see if that continues. But if you grow even a 35% increase year over year, it compounds so quickly. It can 1,000x in a matter of just a few decades.
That's a good way of looking at it, big picture. What is your take with like the recent announcements, the Trump executive order, the Bitcoin reserve, the crypto strategic reserve, and where you see the market heading in the short term? We're talking about, Bawdy's potentially talking about like a major pullback back to like 40K. How do you, what's your feel?
Yeah, I mean, the Solana stuff, I really hate Solana. I think that Solana is really a stain on the crypto industry. Like, it makes me kind of embarrassed, like, to say that I work in crypto, to tell people that I work in crypto, because it's like Trump is just running a pump and dump. Like, I don't like that. And it's like really the opposite. Like Joe Biden, like they did this weird thing where it's like, oh, we're just not gonna talk about crypto. But then, yeah, Trump is like actively going in and then being toxic within the space. So it's like, can we just get someone who's like, all right, like, I mean, honestly, I'd be happy with a maxi if it was in charge. And I think that's what David Sachs was saying. It's like the government is probably going to go the maxi way. But then, yeah, I mean, I would never have thought that it was conceivable that the president would just run a pump and dump right as he's about to be inaugurated. So it seems like it could even get worse. Like if JP Morgan or Goldman Sachs starts running their own pump and dumps regularly, that's really the only way I could see this. Like that seems like where it's going, honestly. because we know there's like shady things like the big 4 banks do, like Wells Fargo has like all these things that they'll just like pick people and like mess around with their accounts and stuff. But yeah, it seems like nobody is ever held accountable these days. Even though you can legalize crypto, make everything like on paper, okay, this is what you can do, and then just go after the most serious offenders. I mean, the Solana people like they're obviously insider trading. And yeah, I mean, but there's nobody's going to do about it because Trump's obviously insider trading using Solana, and then Nancy Pelosi's also a notorious insider trader. She makes like 50% a year in stocks and clearly uses insider knowledge. So I don't think that anything's going to actually be done in regards to holding people accountable for their scams. So it's a good time to be a scammer, I think, in America.
That's a good way of putting it. It's so true, right? Like scamming. These are the glory days of scamming right now.
Absolutely, and I'm not a scammer, or I don't want to be scammed, so that's why I just call Monero now.
It's the golden age of fraud.
I mean, the
SBL, he really timed the bot. Like he just had to wait a few years.
Trump launching that meme coin, 2 days before.
It was 2. He launched. His wife launched one. It was 2.
Yeah, I know. I'm saying it's just insane. It's just like freaking insane. First time chatter tipped $1. I don't know if this was covered before, but what's the community's take on openmonero.com? They're advertising themselves as a local Monero replacement. Their front end is a carbon copy, but yeah, I don't know. Do people know? I think there's another one like Global Monero or something. Anybody have any insight to there, or whether these things are legit, or as we were saying, this being the golden age of scamming, is this yet another scam in the crypto space? I don't know.
I haven't used it. I never used local Monero either. Yeah, I mean, I wanted to, and then they shut it down.
Yeah, guys, I don't know. I don't know if anybody has any good insight into that. And then, like I said, I think there's another one, Global Monero. Tux, I don't know if you're listening. You might have some insight. Bawdy, I don't know if you've come across these things. But yeah, they're posing to be like I could bring it up. Boom. I mean, yeah, it's basically like a local Monero clone. So I don't know how active it is or what's going on here. So I don't know. Don't trust, verify. Start slow. Obviously, people using XMR Bazaar for these types of purposes, not custom built for that use case. It's built for buying and selling any types of goods and services, but people are using it for peer, buying cash with Monero and whatnot, doing it all peer to peer. But yeah, I don't know about this new one that popped up. REMSee. All right, so yeah, you got an interesting perspective on all the Solana meme coin shit because you're working on the tech. Are you working on anything Monero related? You got any Monero related projects you're working on or thinking of working on that you're willing to discuss?
Like I said, I'm interested in working with the swap protocol. I just haven't really had the time, or I haven't had the time to really figure out how I would build that. Yeah, but basically you could set up a decentralized order book that way. But it's like, okay, I mean, an MVP would be possible, but I just haven't had the time recently to build anything like that. It would be cool to have that though, and yeah, it's like I think it'd be very possible to have like a Tor based. You can use zero knowledge proofs for verifying web data, so you can create a proof of computation for any arbitrary computation. So specifically with the market I was talking about earlier, I have this concept of anyone in the world can actually go on to Tor or wherever and then post data that's there's a zero knowledge proof that the data actually exists on Tor. So you could post all the e-commerce information onto a blockchain publicly, and then anyone could interact with that permissionlessly because they can just transact with the Monero address without anyone knowing. And then you could also have encrypted messaging for telling someone where their address is. So I've thought a lot about it, but I haven't ever produced anything.
Very, very cool. Very cool. We could always use more platforms like this. I mean, do you use Basic Swap or Havino Dex, or using any of those things? Do you use XMR?
I've used the Bitcoin Atomic Swap before. I have like a YouTube video I posted like years ago when that was like first got released. So yeah, I still like get views on that occasionally. But yeah, I actually use Change Now sometimes if I'm doing something where it's just like, okay, I need to change this amount to Monero. Like if I get like I get paid in crypto sometimes for like hackathons and stuff, so I'll just like you Change Now to switch something quickly from like base Ethereum or base USDC to Monero.
What do you think the Monero ecosystem needs the most? Right.
I think it is these connections to the other markets. I mean, you could create. I've thought about like you create basically an equivalent of Tornado Cash, but it'd be cross-chain. So one disadvantage of Tornado Cash is that as the privacy pool grows, the gas fees get expensive. So if you're not familiar with Ethereum, gas fees are basically transaction fees. And the more complicated a smart contract, more data it's operating over, the more fees you have to pay. And so with Tornado Cash, when you have a privacy set, you can that's basically what the security mechanism is for the whole everyone using it. And so what you would create with Monero is if you had basically Monero DEX, anyone could use it as a swap tool, and it also kind of helps solve the problem of when you're using something like Tornado Cash, you need to you can't just go, oh, I have $500, I'm going to send it through a channel and then it's going to come out immediately as $500 on the way out, because then it's obvious where the money went. So basically, Monero, it basically, if you had a cross-chain Monero swap tool, it would basically serve that function, because you can actually hold your money in Monero while you're waiting to change all your different things to different addresses, and just kind of disguise your footsteps as you make swaps. And Doug's gone.
No, I'm here. I'm here. What are some things that you're excited that are coming up in Monero? Tech that you got your eye on, improvements, services.
I believe there was
a DEX. I would assume you're excited about.
Well, yeah, I mean that's it hasn't really materialized, has it? As far as I'm aware.
No, not yet.
Yeah. So yeah, there was, and then there was like a hard fork Seraphis. I don't even know if that happened, or I think there are all hard forks every 2 years or something like that. I don't know.
Well, we have full chain membership proofs that's coming up. It's going to be implemented.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, Monero is really complicated. I don't actually understand everything, every single update. I don't follow that closely. But yeah, it's good to see that the Monero community is still able to update itself. And improve the technology while still remaining decentralized.
Are there other cryptos that you're interested? Obviously, you do work on Solana. What are the top crypto projects that have your interest?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, Solana is simply the hot project. It's just where all the pump and dumps are, and that's just like a new thing that's emerged. Ethereum, it's kind of devolved into I went to ETH Denver a few weeks ago. It's they have this whole L2 problem. It's kind of frustrating because the Ethereum chain itself is too expensive. So there's this they have this it's called liquidity fragmentation is the problem, but basically all the money moves onto these layer 2s, and it's all they're all basically the same. They're all competing for the same kind of block space, and they're all oh, we're different because we use zero knowledge proofs in this way. It's this whole mess of an ecosystem. And then as far as privacy related tokens, I'm not a fan of I haven't really looked into them, but Xano or Zcash I've never used. I've never really seen anywhere that accepts them. So yeah, pretty much. And then so as far as I think as far as Bitcoin goes, I don't think it's a bad thing to hold, but personally I would hold it in the ETF, because like self custody, there are risks with that. If you're going to hold, like if you're going to have any money in a bank account, like you might want to put it some in Bitcoin at least and hold it through the ETF rather than having it be cold storage, especially because there's been cases where people have just been tracked on the blockchain on the Bitcoin that they were holding self custody, and they just get robbed, and it's like boom, it's gone. So yeah, I think Monero is really the only thing that it's really safe to self custody because of the privacy.
So when it comes to these contracts platforms and just like platforms in general, do you have a preference for trying to scale with L2 versus L1? Like Solana, for example, as I'm sure you know, is primarily an L1 scaling platform, whereas Ethereum, their entire drive, it seems like for at least the past 4 to 5 years, has been towards roll-ups as their scaling plan. So what do you think about those differences?
Yeah, I think that there's like ZK, and then there's pessimistic proofs, optimistic proofs, and I really am not an expert in that, but I would say that my preference, honestly, is Coinbase's base chain. So it's not like it just uses ETH, but it's cheaper. There's some inconveniences like bridge fees, but yeah, I mean, as far as like if you're looking to write a smart contract and then have it work fairly cheaply, Base is the way to go. Now you have like the centralization risks there, but it's still pretty permissionless, and yeah, you can. I mean, I've never really heard of anyone like having Coinbase interfere in their trade or something like that. So yeah, I think it's. I think if you look at the volumes on the L2s, I think there's like L2 beat is something you can look at. It looks at all that, and yeah, it measures that. But yeah, nobody, I feel like, really uses the Ethereum main chain or the Bitcoin main chain. Like people actually use Solana because they're doing these weird, crazy pump and dumps and rug pulls. And then people use Base because it's actually like I can hold US dollars in it, maybe get some interest from Coinbase, and then also like it's like 4% interest. It's a better interest rate than you get from a regular bank account. So yeah, I like Base, even though, yeah, there's obviously the centralization concerns. But yeah, it's just a cheap L2 that you can use USDC on. So that's why I like it.
Are they like, what are I know the volumes are pretty high now. What about like individually? So if some individual is trying to trade, say 10K or 100K or, $1 million, do you run into problems on Base or these Ethereum layer 2s in terms of there being sufficient L2 volume for you to make big plays? Or is that like, have those ecosystems grown enough to cover that kind of volume, like instantaneous volume?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they have. I mean, as far as like, I mean, Solana is just ridiculous because you'll see a coin, it'll be like 15K market cap and have like 15 million in volume every day. I mean, Solana is just a crazy, crazy ecosystem. So I don't think that Base has anything like that, but it does have like meme coins and yeah, a whole ecosystem around that. Yeah, I think that the part of the issue is like the reason Solana has been so successful is because people just have like token. They really just focus on tokens, whereas Base, you have the smart contracts and people really try to build utilities. So then you have, if you're going to buy a token, you have to audit it. If you're on Base, that would be the responsible thing to do at least. Whereas on Solana, you can more so trust that the token isn't like a honeypot scheme or has some like mint function. Yeah, Solana is more really focused on, it's just a pump and dump casino is what it is fundamentally. And so, yeah, and the people who run the DEXs, they're not actually decentralized exchanges. The people who run the DEXs are closely involved with the big token launches and are obviously, in my opinion, guilty of insider trading. But like I said, so are the leaders of the two political parties in this country. So I don't expect anything to change.
I guess I probably phrased it poorly. I'm trying to ask more like, so when these L2s on Ethereum started taking off, I always had the impression that like their individual capacity, like for a person, like just for one trade, like, okay, I want to trade into Ethereum for $100,000 on L2. I always had the impression that like those kinds of large transactions couldn't be facilitated on their layer 2, but is that still the case? Can you do like, I don't know, say like $1 million transaction on Base or on some ETH layer 2?
Yeah, certainly on Base you could do that. Yeah, I'm sure you could exchange if you had like $1 million of Ethereum and you wanted to turn it into USDC on Base. I'm sure you could do that, and I'm pretty sure that the fees would still be reasonable too. But yeah, I mean, I haven't personally just moved millions on chain.
Yeah, that's interesting because that's a huge leg up in comparison to Bitcoin and Lightning Network. Obviously, Lightning has problems doing like even just 4 figures, 5 figures on Lightning is practically impossible unless you're already like a huge routing hub or whatever. But for like normal people, it's pretty hard to move that much money on Lightning. And
okay, yeah, you can
like,
definitely do 5 figures on Base, yeah.
But like you can't even get into Tether or USDC over Lightning Network on Bitcoin. Like you can to some very small extent, but like it's way lower. It's interesting. I kind of expected Ethereum by now to be performing a little bit better because the volumes that it's doing when you aggregate all of those L2s, it's massively outperforming Bitcoin volumes to just this. Like I mean, it's huge. It's not even close. And it's interesting because you would think that the Ethereum platform, Ethereum as a token would have more value. But, I heard he's kind of a scammer. He's definitely a scammer. This one person whose name I will not mention said that value accrues to the endpoints, not to the platform. So like, for example, I think Amazon was the one that was used. Like, I guess value accrues to Amazon. Maybe I'm fucking this up. Anyways, I think the idea then in general is that like value won't accrue to Ethereum. It'll accrue to like Coinbase and their L2 or like the tokens themselves, the people launching the tokens. But Ethereum itself is a platform. I'm kind of playing with the idea. You can probably tell I'm sort of like openly brainstorming, considering it here. But yeah, maybe Ethereum price won't perform just simply because all the value is flowing through L2s and the value is flowing at the endpoint tokens as opposed to the platform itself. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ethereum makes money through the gas fees, and I don't know why any regular person would pay the gas fees unless they had to. I've had to because I've gotten paid in USDC on Ethereum, and then it's like, oh, I have to pay. I'm sending $500 and I have to spend $2 to do that. That's kind of annoying. Or an exchange on Ethereum like USDC to just regular ETH is like, yeah, it's like $10 on $500 or something. Like it's really annoying. So I don't know. That's how they make their money. But then also like if you're using a Coinbase wallet, Coinbase, if you're like in the app on a swap, it'll just take 1%, and it's like that's not even they're just getting that because you're too lazy to actually log on and like talk to the smart contract yourself. Like that's just a convenience fee. They're taking 1% of the transaction when you're already paying the gas fee, which is extraordinary. So it does go to the platform. It does go to I feel like the only person who loses on actually the crypto stuff completely is Apple because they aren't able to do their platforming like, oh, we take 25% of app revenue. That it's definitely something where it's like, okay, yeah, it really comes to it makes sense. It's fair too, because it's like, okay, they're the ones who actually brought the person to the platform. They're the person who actually, brought the person to actually make the payment. So it does go to that person. But yeah, I think I have been surprised that Ethereum has not hit its above 2021 all-time high. That has been a surprise for me. And it's because of Solana. It's because Solana has taken away all of the degenerate meme coin stuff, and now that's just basically this completely saturated ecosystem of just the most disgusting financial activity that you can imagine.
Yeah, that was kind of one of my major conclusions as well, that Solana was a major factor in sort of like keeping Ethereum price muted. Because otherwise, without Solana, there'd probably be a lot more meme coin degeneracy happening on L2. But I think like now that I really think about it, where is the magic of meme coinery, right? Like you've got Bitcoin ordinals where shit have a JPEG stored on chain, right? When you're like, okay, well there's kind of that Web3 and all that stuff where people were storing memes, but it was really just stored on someone's server and then they got shut down. So it seemed like somewhere in the mess of that nonsense 2022, 23, people started being like, no, wait, let's just put our memes on chain. You can do it on Bitcoin now. And then Solana, blew up as like the chain actually is the storage of the memes itself. So in some ways, that does make a lot of sense because you get this feeling on these L2s like, okay, well, where's the data availability layer happening? And do I really have access to this meme for all time as long as the chain is running? So that kind of does make sense. and I don't think that market's going away anytime soon. Like people just like, it's fun, it's stupid, it's kind of degenerate depending on who you are and how you're approaching it. In some ways, I consider the meme coinery to be slightly more honest than some of these coins that, like Ripple, like representing, or fucking Cardano, that like has concurrency issues. They tried the UTXO model. It doesn't work when it comes to contracts platforms. You need accounts. And Charles Hoskinson's was told this from the very beginning. And like somehow they're like the number 5 crypto, just massive billions and billions. It's like the government just made Cardano part of their strategic reserve, but nobody fucking uses Cardano. Like I don't hear anybody talking about Cardano hardly ever, except for just people with bags.
He
like,
seems to be really very politically connected, right?
He does, doesn't he?
Yeah, he really worked his way into the administration. Yeah, very very intelligent guy. I think he's got some good takes. He doesn't have. I don't think he has a lot of positive things to say about Monero. I think he completely poo-poos Monero, right? And
he told us how he was gonna look into Monero and fix it for us. That was like 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just retarded.
Guys, got some breaking news. REMSee, thank you so much, man. This is I'm glad we were finally able to make you a special guest. Please stick around if you can, but I think we have a second special guest for today. I think this might be the guy behind Ward's Ace Country Store. He just sent us a Monero-based super chat. So I hope we'll see if this is the same guy, because Ward's Ace and Country Store tipped $2.52. I presented Monero at a community event. Unfortunately, one of the tech know-it-alls in the crowd piped in and claiming that the government could force all IP routers to turn off Monero nodes and thereby destroy Monero. How would you respond to that? I don't know if anybody's got a good...
Anyone can run a node.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they'd have to shut down every single one in the world.
Yeah, like it would be a worldwide effort all at once. That'd be insane.
They might have been trying to talk about like port blocking, like, oh, well, they can just block port 1801 or 18,001, but
yes, that's what they were talking about.
Yeah, it's unprecedented for like governments to shut down entire ports across the entire internet. That would be an insane move. They wouldn't do it. Like, could they do it? Yeah, they can kill the entire internet. They can block ports. We could just pivot to another port. Like that would happen very quickly. It's kind of like, it's a hypothetically, yes, technically they could do it, but no, that's never going to happen.
I mean, governments have done this before for other things, but of course you can usually get around it through obfuscation or just using a different port. It doesn't last very long. Print and Pray, thanks for coming up, man. So you are the owner of the Ward's Ace and Country Store?
Yes, that's correct. So,
all right, all right, man.
Yeah. So, and I don't mind sharing my real name. My name's Enoch Ward, by the way, store manager. And you can find that information online or on acehardware.com. It's not something I'm trying to hide. I just Print and Pray is a pseudonym I use because I think it's funny, because that's what we do every day in our current monetary system.
True that.
We were super excited to see you add this. At least I was. I assume others were as well. I mean, this is kind of a dream come true, to be able to walk into a hardware store somewhere and spend Monero directly to buy vital everyday items.
Do you offer a discount for using Monero?
You know what? I could. I would be open to that. Somewhere between 3 and 5%. I'd have to look at my margins on, and it would depend on the category, right? So like a firearm, I'm not making a lot of points on those, right? And so I'm not going to be offering a whole lot of discount on firearms, but on something like maybe greenhouse plants or regular hardware items, lawn and garden, paint, I'd be happy to do a 5% discount on paint. It would go department by department. It would depend, but absolutely. And if any of you are in the area, stop by, ask for me. Again, my name's Enoch. I'm happy to swing a discount. Let's talk, because it's always great to talk to like-minded people that understand the issues we face, because there's a lot.
You should like host a meetup over there, man. People will come in. I'd consider coming by for a little event at Ward's Ace Hardware.
Hell yeah,
in the
boys!
parking
We're
lot.
going to Idaho. Let's go, dude.
You guys are. I'd wait till it warms up. It's kind of cold here still.
So tell us more, man. What compelled you to add words Ace to XMR Bazaar? To tell us a little about your Monero story. Any
I'll try to
details you're willing to share?
To tell you about how I got into Monero, I'd have to start at the beginning and as to how I got into wanting to learn more about money. Is that okay if I start there?
Of course.
Okay, it might take a minute. There's a little backstory, but about 2 years ago, I was actually working at a different Ace Hardware. It's the Ace Hardware down in Ephraim, Utah, before I opened my own store and got that going. And there was this gentleman who was like this crazy conspiracy theorist who I was helping in the aisles, and he was telling me all these crazy things about the Rothschilds and about the $20 bill. If you fold it a certain way, you can see that it's like 9/11 on the towers. I mean, this guy was nuts. But he told me at the end of our conversation, he's like, you need to read a book. It's called The Creature from Jekyll Island by G. Edward Griffin. And I was like, yeah, okay, buddy. Didn't really take him seriously at the time, but I did buy the book, so I guess I took him somewhat seriously because I like reading. I'm reading a lot. I read a lot, and I'm currently reading a lot about aquaponics. That's a different thing in and of itself. You should look into it if you don't know what it is. But I read this book, The Creature from Jekyll Island, and man, that opened my eyes to the problems. A lot of what the guy said was nuts, but some of what he said was actually true, in that our current monetary system is based on debt. Like, money doesn't have any value. The money we have is ghost money, because you have money and you have currency. They're not the same thing. Money has both intrinsic value and it acts as a medium of exchange, whereas currency solely acts as a medium of exchange. So Thomas Jefferson actually referred to it as ghost money, fiat currency, because the true inherent value has been separated from the money and it's been turned into currency alone. And so, well, how does that work at a practical level? When you go into the bank to get a loan, when an individual or a business or a government gets a loan, through bonds is how they would do that. The money that the bank loans you does not exist until the money's credited to your account. Meaning, every time someone gets a loan or a business, they create more inflation for the rest of us, and the banks can lend something that they don't have and make you pay everything you have if you don't pay them back at interest, the thing they loaned you that costs them nothing. I mean, it's nuts. This is wild, especially since the reserve ratio in 2020 was changed to 0% under emergency measures. For those of you who don't know what a reserve ratio or fractional reserve banking is, I encourage you to go look into that, and this will make a lot more sense. Anyway, long story short, I read the book, and my wife and I, we've been trying to look at buying a house and whatnot, and it's like, man, prices have skyrocketed. Things are out of control. Nobody really understands why. Not 1 in a million people could tell you where money comes from, how it's created, and why inflation is a hidden tax, and we're all being royally screwed every day of our lives. The whole system is a big Ponzi scheme of it and fraud. It's all just wrong, and we're all victims to it, and we're all slaves to it until we can find alternate currencies that we can transact with. Now, this is where Monero comes into the picture. And by the way, Monero is not the only. It's not the only thing we can use. We don't just have to use one currency. If you haven't heard of gold backs, I suggest you look into those. Those are a great idea too. But Monero is the best option we have right now, based off of the research I've done. And I don't claim to be a Monero expert, but from what I understand about it, money needs to have 6 essential traits, and we'll see if I can remember them off the top of my head. It's got to be divisible, it's got to be portable, it's got to have inherent value, it needs to be fungible, it needs to act as a medium of exchange, it needs to be universally accepted, And a seventh trait I would add to that in today's modern digital age, money also needs to be private. Just like I can hand you cash and nobody is the wiser, nobody knows the transaction happened, and nor should they. I can do that, the same thing with Monero, and that's the beauty behind it. I'll just end with, I believe there are 3 things in life that should be absolutely private. And it's not because you're trying to do anything wrong, by the way. Most people who use Monero are not criminals. But the 3 things in life that I think have a right to privacy, and there's more, but the 3 main ones: you should be able to have sex in private. You should be able to go to the bathroom in private. And you should be able to transact in the marketplace freely, privately. And if you don't have the right to do those things, I don't know what life is, to be honest. And you're not doing those things because you're hiding. You're not trying to hide. You're not trying to do anything bad. Privacy and crime are not the same thing, although they get convoluted together by people who decide that they know better than you as to how you should be spending your money, and that they can act as God. And anyway, that's a little backstory. Sorry, I ranted. I can talk a long time about this stuff.
Dude,
Anyway,
fantastic rant. We'll cut that and paste that on. We'll send that out on X. Tux, let's run the special guest segment again. Let's just run it again, just so we have it documented here. We have Print and Pray as our special guest today. Very excited to have you on, man. I want to talk to you more about this. Tux, can you run? Did Tux walk away? He might have walked away.
No,
so tell us more about, I guess, what spurred you to actually start accepting Monero at the hardware store? Were you already like using Monero in the Monero economy, or kind of tell us how that natural progression happened?
Good question. So I only started accepting Goldbacks and Monero about a month ago. And the reason it was only a month ago is because I couldn't figure out, like, how would I account for this stuff? I mean, we have our entire framework of our entire financial system is built around the US dollar, at least since 1913, when the Federal Reserve was established. But the accounting was the biggest holdup for me, because when someone pays me with Monero, I need to have a way to pay taxes with that Monero, because as a business, I mean, everything's got to be kosher, right? I can't be doing anything under the table. I have no intentions of doing anything under the table. By the way, if anyone wants to buy a gun from me under the table, I'm sorry, I won't do it. Can't do it. I'm not risking federal time. It's just not worth it. So don't even bother asking if you're interested in that. But I was able to figure out how to account for it properly. And aside from that, it's just not hard to use. It's just a QR code, and they pay me. I wait for a couple confirmations, and some people say you shouldn't wait for confirmations because it takes too much time. Maybe at some point I won't, but right now I currently wait for 3 confirmations. So your transaction is going to be around 5 minutes, unfortunately. However, it's better than not accepting Monero, period. And by the way, I don't just accept Monero. I accept other cryptocurrencies, but I convert those immediately to USDC and then send them to an exchange and to my bank account, because I have no intention of holding other cryptocurrencies. I just don't care to. I think most of the market is a scam, rug pull. You were talking about Solana. A lot of those coins are just pump and dumps. I have no intention of getting pumped and dumped as a business. I just simply, if people want to transact with a currency, I think they should be able to. And I have no intentions of restricting what people do and don't, and what they can and can't transact with. That doesn't mean I accept every currency in the world, but I've tried to, open up opportunities. And from a business standpoint, it makes a lot of sense, because if you get somebody who made millions off of Bitcoin, but they don't want to send it back to fiat, so they have to pay capital gains taxes on it, wouldn't it make a lot of sense for me to accept it at my store? It's opening the market up for me to people who maybe have access to more funds, more money, but who don't want to convert it to fiat. That's kind of the logic I used in implementing this.
Yeah, 100%. There's a real need there to want to spend crypto at some point.
Do you accept ZeroConf in your store?
Oh, geez. So the payment processor I currently use is called Now Payments. That's how I convert it automatically to USDC. So if you go to Now Payments and whatever they can convert, they charge me a 2% fee to do it, all said and done. Whatever they can convert, you can look up the list online, I can accept easily, at least.
Oh, I think Bawdy was asking about zero confirmation, right?
Yeah.
Excuse me, zero comp on XMR. Oh, yeah. Excuse me, I'm sorry about
that.
Might
missed, but he did answer that.
I was thinking zero comp was a different crypto. Sorry, I apologize. No, yeah, zero confirmations for XMR. I'm open. I haven't been accepting it long enough to feel comfortable with zero confirmations, but I do see that. And maybe what I'll end up doing, I think it would make a lot of sense to do a tiered setup, right? Like anything under $50, zero conf would make a lot of sense. Maybe anything between 50 and 200, one confirmation, and anything over $100, maybe I ought to get 3 confirmations, right? I'm not going to wait for all 10. But also, if someone only wants to buy a candy bar, of course I'm good with zero conf in that case. But you see what I mean? It really depends on the transaction amount. If someone wants to come buy a riding lawnmower from me for $5,000, depending on what brand, if they want to buy a steel branded riding lawnmower, that's a pretty penny. And I'm not about to accept a zero confirmation for that amount of money. So it depends on the amount.
Yeah, it's something like that, saying, can you wait 5 minutes? So on the payment,
right.
That's not a big deal.
If I'm going to walk into a store and spend $5,000, yeah, I can wait 5 minutes.
Yeah. Well, and it's going to take us 5 minutes. Maybe we can start loading the lawnmower while the confirmation's going, Right. And so, yes, I'm open to zero comp.
So what is you're using Now Payments, obviously, for accepting other cryptos. For Monero, I assume, obviously, we're talking about zero, so you're accepting it directly. Do you have you don't have Monero built into your POS system in any way? Is that something you're looking to do?
Yeah, that's
what
tough.
issues are you having as a store that's accepting crypto and Monero? Like solutions you'd like to see, perhaps, with regards to Monero to make it more seamless for you.
That is tough because, again, our whole infrastructure has been built around the US dollar. My point of sale and inventory system, it's called Epicor, if any of you are familiar with that company. And I've had conversations with their developers, and they said they have no intentions of implementing something into the system itself. So what I've had to do is I've gone into the back end of my inventory system, and I've created, they call them alternate tenders, at least Epicor. Other point of sale systems maybe have a different name for it. So I've created an alternate tender called Crypto USD. And so when somebody pays with the cryptocurrency, the cashier runs it as a Crypto USD transaction, and the receipt prints off. They just type in the amount that was paid. As soon as the confirmation turns green, it goes from yellow to green, right? And the receipt prints off, they take it, but it is one extra step versus someone tapping a credit card on the screen, on the payment. Excuse me, I lost my trail of thought. It's tapping a credit card, and then the receipt just automatically prints off. I have seen on X, someone was working on, you've all seen this, I'm sure, someone was working on a point of sale system for Monero. I would be happy to implement that into my store. Because again, all the other cryptocurrencies, I convert to US dollars the moment I get them, or USDC. And Monero is the only one I have any interest in holding. And so I would be happy to hold, use a separate point of sale system where they tap their phone and they pay with Monero and zero confirmations. I'd love to see if if that developer could work on a tiered transaction amount to where it needs a certain amount of confirmations depending on the dollar transacted. But I hope that makes sense, how I convert the other cryptocurrencies to US dollars, but Monero I actually want to hold, and people, can pay the direct wallet. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And you're essentially marking it as, a cash payment, right? Like on the POS system, like what's
on the point of sale system. Yeah. It's not, yes and no. So I could run it just as cash, but then on the back end, when we're balancing our tills and whatnot, we don't have a way to distinguish between a cash payment and a crypto payment. And so that's why I created an alternate tender called Crypto USD.
Right.
So that my bookkeeper in the back, she sees on our daily printout, it's like, okay, $10 was spent with Crypto USD, and I should have, say, $200 in the bag, but I only have $190. Oh, the $10 is sitting in the USDC account that we need to transfer over.
Have you ever done a breakdown between like which cryptos are used more often than others, and like, are you comfortable saying what your relative volumes are for crypto versus the US dollar?
So I would be very comfortable saying that, except that it's just not a popular thing yet. The word's still getting out that we do it. Again, it was less than a month ago. And so I don't have the volume and the numbers to even give you any sort of idea as to what we're doing. But if you talk to me a year from now, I'll have enough transactions under my belt to where we can have that conversation.
Right on.
Yeah. You literally just started accepting it.
I've had a total of like 4 transactions, which is just not going to give you a good subset of data.
Are you thinking about things like giving your cashiers access so they could accept too? So and then you maybe just give them a view key, a view only wallet, just so they could see transactions coming in.
Yes. Yeah. So
that's not a problem yet, right? It's
not a problem yet. No.
Right? When you get the one transaction per week and you're there, it's like you're walking over and you're like, yo, here's my cake wallet. Send the Monero, and then I mark it off in the POS system as whatever.
Well, and to be honest, even if I wasn't there, I'm there five out of 7 days of the week, and so most of the time I'm there. But say you happen to come on a day I'm not there, it's as simple as a cashier giving me a phone call, and I walk them through how to do it. It's no big deal. Currently, with the now payments with the other cryptocurrencies, the cashiers can do it without me there at all. They're all trained. They know how to do it. Now, if you come into the store, be patient because they haven't done it much, but they know how to do it. I've created a PDF document for them where they know how to access, and it gives them step-by-step how they do it. And that's through the now payments again. So I can accept all those other cryptocurrencies. And I could also accept XMR through now payments, but the problem is then I don't get to hold XMR. It just gets converted to USDC. I can do that. But
what about it as what is it about the now payments that's allowing all your cashiers to easily do it? Because they're just pulling it up in their browser or something, and then.
I wish I could. I wish I was at my lab.
Probably get that same setup going for Monero, just using like Cake Wallet, app on a CPU versus.
You know what? You're right. I absolutely could, because how it works is at the top of the screen I have bookmarks for everything the cashiers need. Like if they need to order an automotive part because we work with CarQuest, or the Farm and Ranch, I have all these things bookmarked. I have one called. Payment methods bookmarked, and so they click on payment methods, and if someone wants to pay with the gold back, there's the documentation how to pay with that, and then there's a bookmark for cryptocurrencies, and in the bookmark there's the link to now payments, and it pulls up the QR code the customer scans and where they can send it to. And the cool thing about that system is it generates a one-time QR code for every transaction. It's unique every time. But I could absolutely add another link to like a Cake Wallet address or something, and maybe you can help me like with ideas after the show. We can talk via. We've been chatting via XMR Bizarre Chat. But again, I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I'm open to ideas, and I would love an integration to make that easier for sure.
Dude, this is magical moment. We have somebody here that's practically looking to try to accept Monero for payments. That's running a store. Like this is where we need to figure it out. So I'm glad we're getting
let's do it. Yeah.
We have another guy here in Astoria in New York City, a supermarket that's willing to accept Monero, but it's the same thing. Like it's when he's there, and he doesn't have it integrated into his POS system. Obviously, he's kind of doing it in this ad hoc way. But I'd like to try to get him to figure it out too. But I think this is how we come up with the solutions. So it's exciting to see. What would be your thinking or advice? Like obviously you took it upon yourself to do this because you see it as being beneficial to you. Otherwise you wouldn't be doing it, right? You see it as it's going to yield you more wealth in the future, right? This is the right way to go. And even so much so that you're willing to put up with these inconveniences of trying to figure out how to accept it. How do you think we can convey this message to other vendors who may not know much about crypto at this point, just people, small business owners, trying to give them the incentive to start, thinking about accepting Monero, despite the fact that it may not even be like super easy to integrate into your POS? Do you think we're there yet, where we could like start approaching small businesses that might be in the freedom movement? I don't know, gun store owners, hardware store owners across the U.S. that might have this mentality of, free market capitalism. Any thoughts on how we can grow this and get others like yourself to start doing the same?
Well, you have to get them to catch the vision. If they catch the vision as to why it's important, that's the moment, they hop on the ship and roll with it. But until then, they're not going to accept it. And in fact, the only way to get people to catch the vision is through education. So things like this are very important, but also not everyone's willing to sit down and listen to a 3-hour, podcast or these long speeches. And these are great, by the way, but not everyone's willing to open their ears for that long, because in today's society, we all have the attention span of a goldfish. Nobody's willing to take the time to learn. And more than likely, the majority of people will not start accepting alternate currencies as payment, like Monero, until they see and until they see the real problems with our current system and it starts affecting them directly, which it already is, but until they start noticing it. So I would just say education. The reason I'm in it is because I want to see a prosperous world for my kids and my grandkids and their kids. And I think what we're doing here is we are planting seeds that we may never actually see get to eat the fruit of, so to speak. Like, you don't plant a tree for your own self, you plant it for future generations. And this education takes time. And I just don't see this happening quickly. But the more we can get simple educational resources out to the public, like just basic, I love infographics, like things like that, where you can just explain briefly to a person, like, why would I want to accept this? Why is this useful? Things like that can help. But again, what got me into it and what got me wanting to accept Monero was education. And education is what's going to help other people want to accept it as well. It's not, and you got to get past the whole thing. People think cryptocurrency is like this big investment you're going to make a ton of money on. We got to stop thinking about that. With Monero, stop thinking about it. If you do currently, don't think about it as an investment. This is money. This is digital cash. Use it, spend it, and it's just not going to. We don't want it to become like Bitcoin, where all it is useful for is an investment. We want Monero to be actually a daily use thing. Gresham's law states that the bad money drives out good money, and that's what we see happening. If you have $5 of Monero and $5 worth of dollars, you're probably going to want to use the dollars because you don't want to use the good money. And so we need to make a conscious effort to use it and to educate about it.
Bro, that's one of the most base takes I've heard on the Viewers on Stage segment of Monero, like, ever.
Oh, thank you.
That's so spot on. Like, the notion of the hype and the everyone do the thing and it's to the moon and all that. It's like,
no, that's not who we are.
Yeah, like we just have to use the thing. We can't be like expecting this is going to make us retired and rich. Like we have to, like, even in the non-attachment sense, like the Buddhist sense or whatever, like we have to let all of that shit go. And the kind of scumbags in the market, the crypto cabal, the suits, the government, they've kind of made that easier because that's sort of the path that we basically have to take. We've almost been forced into like kind of doing the right thing and reorganizing our mentality. At least personally, that's what I did. Like back a few years ago when I realized just how heavily they were trying to attack Monero, just how heavily price attacked it was. I was like, okay, well, you know what? Maybe I did get caught up in the hype too much and maybe I need to take a step back from that. And okay, like I get it, promote Monero. Like we should promote Monero. I mean, I'm here on the Monerotopia show every weekend doing that. But, I like just overall, like give up the attachment to the gains, give up the attachment to, we're going to change the world and save the world. It's like, yeah, but it might take 10 years. It might take 20 years. So just like do the basic things, do the like heads down, work in the grindstone, etc.
This is a long-term play.
$100%, and it's very exciting to see you on XMR Bazaar, man. That's beautiful to see. I'm hoping to see more people like you start to pop up there. Any thoughts there on how we get the word out on XMR Bazaar to people that might be thinking along your lines but just haven't discovered Monero yet?
As far as how you get XMR Bazaar to the public?
Basically, how we get the word out on Monero and XMR Bazaar to other people such as yourself that realize that it makes sense to accept Monero.
Everything with Monero is grassroots, the way I see it, and grassroots movements start from the bottom, meaning those of you who see the vision of Monero, what it could be, why it's important, you need to get involved in your local communities. This is not going to happen over X, and this is not going to happen over any large platform. It's going to happen in your local community, getting involved. I'm sure every community is going to have local, very constitutional-minded groups. Get involved with those groups. Those are the kinds of people who are going to hopefully see the vision behind something like this because it's freedom-focused. Get involved in your local communities. And as people get involved in their local communities, the local vendors or the local merchants who see the value and say, okay, this guy's a respectable guy in the community. He's talking about this. Okay, maybe this is something I should take more seriously. That's the point when Monero takes off. It's not from the top down, it's from the bottom up, from the local communities. For example, there's a guy in town, his name's Chad. He's actually
a real world Monero Chad.
A real world Monero Chad. Great guy. That's kind of funny.
Yeah.
His name's Chad. And the moment he is part of this local constitutional group, and that's where I presented last night, by the way. I presented a history of banking in the United States and a couple solutions to the problems. And Monero was one of them.
How many people came out? How many people were there?
I mean, we're talking like 20 to 30 people. It's not an amazing amount of people, but it's also a town of 2,500 people. We're a small town. And so it's not bad. But again, this guy Chad was there. And Chad runs a local snow plowing business. He also is a blacksmith. He makes knives. His company, if you want to look him up, is called Twisted Iron LLC. He makes some
XMR Bazaar, bro.
Exactly. So what I did is I told him the basic in under 5 minutes, and obviously I can talk, as you can see that. In under 5 minutes, I explained to him why Monero is important, why we should use it, and how to use it. And I simply just had him download the Cake Wallet app, and I sent him $1 in Monero and said, check this out. You just got $1 in under a second. Again, zero comp. In under a second, I sent you $1. You could have been in Ukraine, in Japan, Australia, anywhere where Monero is not supposed to be happening. You could be there. And the point I was trying to drive home to this guy was he's big into gold. And I'm like, try to get gold to Australia. I love gold. It's great, but it doesn't work in every situation. And his eyes lit up. He's like, whoa, you're right.
That's the exact pitch I make to people, whether like tipping an Uber driver or whatever. After you send it, you're right. You're like, well, now imagine that you're on the other side of the world.
Yeah.
I could have done the same thing, and I could have sent you $1. I could have sent you $1 million worth of Monero. Would have taken the same amount of time, a fraction of a cent, and nobody else would know about it. And
it's such a beautiful thing. Well, and the cool thing is I then went and I swiped right in Cake Wallet. You know, I clicked on the transaction, scrolled down, and clicked on the Transaction Explorer. And I said, check this out. He's already familiar with Bitcoin and you know how you can track the transactions. And I went down and I said, I want you to tell me what you can figure out about this transaction based off of what someone could see on the public blockchain. And he's like, yeah, dude, I have no idea. There's a bunch of question marks. Like, I don't know how much was sent. I don't know. There's 16 different people who could have come from. Oh, my wallet address is right there, right? But, oh, wait a second. I'm like, but that's not your wallet address. That's a pseudo address. Your wallet address starts with the 4, my friend. And he's like, oh, that is so cool. And so another way to get merchants on board, and I think he will be on XMR Bazaar soon, by the way, because he loves the idea. But send him $1. I mean, we're tipping on here to you guys, which is great. I think definitely support these guys, give them tips. They do a great job. But who can afford to just send $1 to someone just to show them how the system works? I mean, I've done it about 12 times now. I've sent $1 to different individuals, whether in my family, local people, like Bitcoin maxis in the community I'm trying to convert. God, it's worse than like religions against each other, man. Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. But send them $1. Show them how it works. Like, show them the practicality.
I always say I think tipping is a great way to do that, right? You talk to somebody, you know, waiter, waitress at a restaurant, your barber, whoever it may be. It might be a hard sell to get them to accept the entire bill in Monero, right? They never heard of this thing yet, but you're like, hey, you know what? I'll give you some as a tip, you know, and within 2 minutes they have the wallet on their phone and they're receiving their first, whatever, $10 in Monero, whatever it may be. Yeah, man. I love what you're doing. Thank you for jumping on today. I feel like we could have done a full Monero talk, but I'm sure we could do that at some point. You're always welcome to jump on this stage here and give us any updates you have. Like I said, we'd love to try to work with you out in the open and anybody else who's looking to do this. And we could improve basically the user experience for stores to receive Monero. However we could get it to work most seamlessly. It's certainly possible to do now, but I think there's a lot of improvements that can be made there, and that will help grow things. But as Print and Pray was really saying, I mean, we're really more in the early adopter stage, so it's more about just convincing people, educating them, getting them to understand why this all matters in the first place, and then they'll figure out how to accept Monero once they understand the value. And so we're probably still on that stage, which is fine, which is a good place to be. Thank you so much, man. I'm good with wrapping it up here. I don't know if anybody else has any other questions. Anything anybody wants?
Yeah, I actually had an idea. So I know Monerotopia Buenos Aires kind of fell through last year, but this year in November, like that's where all the Ethereum people are going to be this year around November 20th for DevConnect, Pragma, and an ETH Global event down there. So Buenos Aires might be the move for Monerotopia around that time of year. It's just an idea.
Of November, you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to do it in Mexico again in 2026, February 2026. Next event, like I said before, will be the PorcFest event. That's this June, same time as the MoneroCon event. And then after that, our next plan, Monerotopia, is February 2026, Mexico City. And then after that, in 2027, not sure where we're going yet. Sunita and I had some good conversations about it last night. Actually, we might try to take it back to the States in 2027. So.
If price is up, if price is high, we got to be in Miami, obviously.
Well, this is going to be controversial, but I'm actually thinking New York, guys. I'm actually thinking I have some ideas for how we could do New York cheap. maybe it's at a time when the bit license has been eliminated here in New York City, in New York. So it could be, I don't know, could be a good time to do it. We'll see though. Endless options. I've always said I didn't want to like do it in New York, but I don't know. We'll see. Who knows? Maybe we do it at the hardware store out west in the parking lot. I'm down for that too, man.
Hey, I'll throw you guys a hell of a barbecue, okay?
All right, guys, this is amazing. Print to pray, man. Love to see stories like this, organic adoption happening and just blossoming up in different parts of the world. Looks like we have a little nest egg of adoption happening out where you are, which is very, very cool to see. Thanks to everybody who joined today. We do these shows every Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern. See you guys next week, same time. And yeah, adios.
Thanks for coming on, everyone.
Ciao.
Looks like there we go.
Thank you for joining us on this week's Monerotopia episode. We stream live shows every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern. You can find and subscribe to our show on YouTube and Odyssey, or listen to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or Stitcher. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or join us in the Monerotopia Telegram group. See you all next week.